The 2023 William Hill World Darts Championship commenced on December 15, 2022, with Michael Smith arriving at Alexandra Palace as defending champion for the first time in his career, a psychological transition that would test whether Bully Boy could handle the pressure of defending rather than chasing. The tournament began under familiar circumstances, with packed crowds returning to create the raucous atmosphere that had always defined the event, though the darting landscape had evolved considerably since Smith's breakthrough triumph 12 months earlier. The competitive depth had increased noticeably, with multiple players now possessing the technical ability and mental strength to challenge for championship glory. Smith's title defense would unfold against this backdrop of enhanced competition, where his championship credentials would be tested not just by individual opponents but by the accumulated weight of expectation and the target painted on his back as the reigning world champion. The tournament field assembled with unprecedented quality and depth, reflecting the PDC's continued dominance of professional darts and the organization's success in developing elite talent through its various tour systems. Luke Humphries arrived in exceptional form, his recent tournament victories demonstrating that Cool Hand Luke had evolved from promising prospect into genuine championship contender. Humphries' scoring power was extraordinary, his ability to consistently hit heavy scores putting opponents under immediate pressure and forcing them to respond with matching firepower or fall behind. His smooth throwing action produced remarkable consistency, while his apparently unflappable temperament suggested a player capable of handling the intense pressure that championship contention inevitably brings. Whether Humphries possessed the intangible qualities required to win major championships remained to be proven, though his recent performances suggested that breakthrough success might be imminent. Michael van Gerwen's arrival at the tournament generated intrigue, as the Dutchman sought to reclaim the dominant form that had characterized his peak years. Mighty Mike had endured a frustrating period by his exceptionally high standards, his finishing problems and occasional mental fragility suggesting that age and accumulated pressure might be affecting even his formidable abilities. Van Gerwen's situation highlighted the challenges facing aging champions, where physical skills remain largely intact but mental approach and confidence can be compromised by disappointing results and younger challengers showing no fear of established reputations. Whether Van Gerwen could rediscover the psychological edge that had once made him almost unbeatable would determine whether future championship glory remained possible or whether his time at the sport's pinnacle had definitively passed. Gerwen Price entered as a former champion seeking to recapture the form that had carried him to World Championship glory 2 years earlier. The Iceman's aggressive style and controversial celebrations had made him one of the sport's most polarizing figures, though Price had gradually moderated his behavior in response to criticism while maintaining the competitive intensity that defined his approach. His physical conditioning remained superior to virtually any player in professional darts, his rugby background and dedicated fitness training providing stamina advantages that could prove decisive in extended matches. Price's combination of mental toughness, physical endurance, and undeniable technical ability made him dangerous, though questions lingered about whether his confrontational style had peaked or whether further championship success remained achievable. The early rounds produced several impressive performances from younger players challenging the established elite. Luke Littler, a remarkably talented teenager whose precocious abilities had generated significant attention, demonstrated scoring power and composure that belied his youth. Littler's emergence represented the latest example of the PDC development system's success in identifying and nurturing exceptional young talent, though whether he possessed the mental maturity to compete at championship level remained unclear given his age and limited experience. The contrast between Littler's youthful enthusiasm and the veteran champion's accumulated wisdom created fascinating dynamics that would shape the tournament's narrative. Peter Wright's progress through the draw featured typically flamboyant performances, as Snakebite's elaborate hairstyles and colorful outfits continued generating headlines and social media attention. Beneath the showmanship lay a former world champion whose technical abilities and competitive fire remained formidable, his unique throwing action still producing remarkable consistency despite appearing to violate conventional wisdom about repeatability. Wright's journey to the final would test whether he could recapture the championship-winning form that had carried him to glory 3 years earlier, or whether age and accumulated mileage were beginning to impose limitations that even his considerable talents could not overcome. Michael Smith's journey through the draw featured gradually improving performances as the defending champion grew more comfortable with his elevated status. Smith's scoring throughout the tournament was remarkably consistent, his smooth throwing action producing the heavy numbers required to maintain pressure on opponents. His finishing, which had been his Achilles heel before his breakthrough championship, continued showing the improvement that had carried him to world title glory. Smith's ability to convert pressure doubles in crucial moments demonstrated genuine championship temperament, the mental strength that separates players who win major titles from those who consistently fall short when facing ultimate pressure. The final between Smith and Wright promised a fascinating encounter between two players who had experienced championship glory and knew what was required to win on the Alexandra Palace stage. The opening stages suggested a classic match might be developing, as both players produced moments of brilliance interspersed with occasional errors revealing the psychological pressure. Smith would successfully defend his title against Wright's determined challenge. The 2024 William Hill World Darts Championship commenced on December 14, 2023, with the professional darts community sensing that a generational shift might be imminent, as a new wave of exceptional young talent appeared ready to challenge the established champions who had dominated recent years. Luke Humphries arrived at Alexandra Palace in absolutely scintillating form, his recent tournament victories and consistent excellence throughout the year establishing him as the overwhelming favorite despite never having won a world championship. Cool Hand Luke's combination of devastating scoring power, clinical finishing, and apparently unshakable composure suggested that breakthrough championship success might finally be at hand. The question facing the tournament was not whether Humphries possessed the ability to win, but whether he could maintain his exceptional form through the grueling 2-week gauntlet and handle the intense psychological pressure that comes with being the marked favorite. The tournament field assembled with extraordinary depth, reflecting the PDC's success in developing elite talent and the increasing globalization of professional darts. Players from diverse geographical backgrounds now competed at the highest level, their varied playing styles and cultural approaches enriching the sport and demonstrating that darting excellence transcended national boundaries. The competitive standard had risen noticeably, with multiple players now capable of producing averages exceeding 100 over extended periods, a level of sustained excellence that would have been exceptional just a decade earlier but had become almost commonplace among the elite. This evolution in playing standards created a tournament environment where any lapse in concentration or temporary dip in form could result in elimination, as the margin for error had compressed dramatically. Michael Smith arrived as defending champion seeking an unprecedented third consecutive world title, though his form approaching the tournament suggested this ambitious goal might prove elusive. Bully Boy had endured a challenging year by his high standards, his usually reliable scoring becoming slightly erratic and his finishing occasionally letting him down in crucial moments. Smith's situation demonstrated how defending world championships can affect even accomplished players, as the accumulated pressure and target on one's back create psychological burdens that can subtly compromise performance. Whether Smith could rediscover the championship winning form that had carried him to back-to-back titles or whether mental and physical fatigue would prevent another triumph represented one of the tournament's compelling storylines. Luke Littler's participation generated unprecedented media attention and public interest, as the teenage sensation's remarkable abilities had transformed him into one of professional darts' most recognizable figures despite his youth and relative inexperience. Littler's scoring power was genuinely exceptional, his ability to hit heavy numbers with apparent ease suggesting natural talent that occurs perhaps once in a generation. His finishing, while occasionally inconsistent due to his youth and developing technique, showed flashes of genuine brilliance that hinted at enormous future potential. The contrast between Littler's age and his technical abilities created a fascinating dynamic, as observers wondered whether his mental maturity could match his physical gifts or whether the intense pressure of championship contention might expose his inexperience. The early rounds featured several memorable performances that set the tone for the tournament ahead. Humphries' demolition of his early opponents showcased a player operating at the absolute peak of his powers, his scoring relentless and his finishing clinical. Cool Hand Luke's combination of technical excellence and composed demeanor created an aura of inevitability around his campaign, as if the tournament were merely a formality before the trophy found its rightful owner. His ability to maintain exceptional averages over extended periods while simultaneously converting pressure doubles with remarkable efficiency demonstrated the complete package of skills required for championship glory. Peter Wright's early exit shocked many observers, as Snakebite's usually reliable performances on the Alexandra Palace stage deserted him at a crucial moment. Wright's defeat highlighted the increasing competitiveness of the tournament field, where even former world champions could no longer expect comfortable progress through early rounds. The result also suggested that Wright's peak years might be behind him, that age and accumulated mileage were beginning to impose limitations that even his considerable talents and unconventional approach could not overcome. Wright's gracious acceptance of defeat and acknowledgement of his opponent's superior performance demonstrated the class that had always characterized his behavior, even as disappointment at falling short of championship contention was clearly evident. Michael van Gerwen's tournament run proved frustratingly inconsistent, as Mighty Mike alternated between flashes of his former dominance and periods of uncharacteristic vulnerability. The Dutchman's finishing problems, which had plagued him for several years, continued undermining otherwise excellent performances. Van Gerwen's situation epitomized the cruel reality facing aging champions, where technical abilities remain largely intact but mental approach and confidence can be compromised by accumulated disappointments and the emergence of younger challengers showing no fear of established reputations. Whether Van Gerwen could rediscover the psychological edge that had once made him virtually unbeatable remained unclear, though his visible frustration suggested that self-doubt might be affecting even his formidable competitive spirit. Luke Littler's remarkable run to the final captured global attention and transformed the teenager into an international sporting sensation overnight. His combination of youthful enthusiasm, exceptional scoring power, and apparent comfort on the sport's biggest stage defied conventional wisdom about the experience required for championship contention. Littler's progress through the draw featured spectacular performances that captivated global audiences. The 2025 William Hill World Darts Championship commenced on December 13, 2024, with unprecedented anticipation surrounding Luke Littler's return to Alexandra Palace, as the teenage sensation sought to convert his remarkable runner-up finish from 12 months earlier into ultimate championship glory. Littler's performances throughout 2024 had been nothing short of sensational, his combination of devastating scoring power, improving finishing, and growing mental maturity suggesting that breakthrough championship success might be imminent. The Nuke, as he had become known, had captured public imagination in ways that transcended professional darts, his youth and obvious talent attracting mainstream media attention and introducing the sport to entirely new audiences. The question facing the tournament was whether Littler's maturing game and accumulated experience would prove sufficient to handle the intense pressure of being championship favorite, or whether another year of development might be required before he could claim ultimate glory. The tournament field assembled with its familiar depth and quality, though the narrative focus inevitably centered on Littler and his quest for redemption after the heartbreaking final defeat he had experienced as a 17-year-old. Luke Humphries arrived as defending champion, his imperious form throughout the year suggesting that Cool Hand Luke had transitioned from breakthrough champion into sustained excellence. Humphries' combination of technical brilliance, mental strength, and composed demeanor made him the obvious favorite alongside Littler, their potential final encounter promising a rematch that would captivate the darting world. The prospect of these two exceptional young players dominating the sport for the next decade created excitement about professional darts' future. Even as established champions like Michael van Gerwen and Peter Wright sought to prove that reports of their demise were premature, Michael Smith's arrival at the tournament carried the weight of recent struggles, as Bully Boy had endured a difficult year following his back-to-back World Championship triumphs. Smith's form had deteriorated noticeably, his usually reliable scoring becoming erratic and his finishing regressing toward the inconsistency that had plagued him before his breakthrough success. The situation demonstrated how sustaining excellence at the highest level requires not just technical ability but also mental resilience and the capacity to handle accumulated pressure over extended periods. Whether Smith could rediscover championship form or whether his peak years might already be behind him remained uncertain, though his obvious class and previous championship pedigree meant dismissing him entirely would be premature. The early rounds featured several impressive performances that confirmed the rising generation's emergence as professional darts' new elite. Littler's demolition of his early opponents showcased a player who had learned from his final defeat and returned with enhanced mental strength alongside his already exceptional technical abilities. The teenager's scoring remained devastating, his ability to consistently hit heavy numbers putting opponents under immediate and sustained pressure. More impressively, his finishing had improved noticeably. The erratic doubles conversion that had cost him the previous year's final replaced by increasingly clinical efficiency on the big doubles. Littler's development demonstrated remarkable maturity, his willingness to analyze weaknesses and implement systematic improvements suggesting a champion's mentality that extended beyond natural talent. Luke Humphries' progress through the draw featured characteristically excellent performances, as Cool Hand Luke demonstrated why he had become professional darts' dominant force. His scoring power remained exceptional, while his finishing continued showing the clinical efficiency that had carried him to championship glory. Humphries' composed demeanor and apparently unshakable confidence created psychological advantages even before matches began, as opponents seemed to accept they would need to produce exceptional darts merely to remain competitive. The defending champion's aura of invincibility, built through sustained excellence over extended periods, represented a significant intangible advantage that complemented his obvious technical superiority. The quarterfinals produced a dramatic encounter that would significantly shape the tournament's narrative, as an inspired opponent pushed Littler to his absolute limits before the teenager's superior class eventually prevailed. The match tested Littler's mental resilience and ability to handle adversity, qualities that had been questioned following his final defeat 12 months earlier. His composed response to pressure situations, his refusal to panic when facing elimination, and his ability to produce his best darts in crucial moments demonstrated genuine championship temperament. The victory represented crucial psychological validation, proving that Littler had developed the mental strength required to complement his exceptional natural talents. Michael van Gerwen's semi-final appearance surprised many observers who had written off the Dutchman's championship prospects, as Mighty Mike produced vintage performances that recalled his dominant years. Van Gerwen's scoring power remained formidable, while his finishing showed signs of the clinical efficiency that had once made him virtually unbeatable. Yet beneath these impressive displays, subtle signs suggested that age and accumulated mileage were beginning to impose limitations. His stamina appeared slightly reduced compared to peak years, while his recovery time between intense matches seemed extended. Whether Van Gerwen could sustain exceptional form through a potential final remained questionable, though his semi-final performances proved he remained capable of matching anyone when producing his best darts. The final between Littler and Van Gerwen promised a fascinating generational clash, with youthful brilliance facing accumulated experience and proven championship pedigree. The opening stages delivered spectacular darts from both players, their scoring power and finishing ability showcasing professional darts at its absolute peak. Littler would triumph to claim his first World Championship. The 2026 William Hill World Darts Championship commenced on December 15, 2025, with professional darts entering a new era defined by unprecedented depth of talent and a generational shift that had fundamentally transformed competitive dynamics. Luke Littler arrived at Alexandra Palace as defending champion, his maiden world title from 12 months earlier having confirmed what observers had long suspected, that the Nuke represented the sport's future and potentially its most dominant force for the next decade. Littler's performances throughout 2025 had been consistently exceptional, his combination of devastating scoring power, clinical finishing, and growing mental maturity establishing him as the clear favorite despite his youth. The tournament would test whether Littler could successfully defend his title and begin building a championship dynasty, or whether the intense pressure of being the marked favorite might expose vulnerabilities that another year of development could address. Luke Humphries entered the championship as the most credible challenger to Littler's dominance. Cool Hand Luke's exceptional form throughout the year demonstrating that his World Championship triumph 2 years earlier had been no isolated achievement. Humphries' scoring power remained extraordinary, his ability to consistently hit heavy numbers creating sustained pressure that few opponents could withstand. His finishing continued showing the clinical efficiency that had carried him to championship glory, while his composed demeanor and mental strength suggested a player capable of handling any psychological challenge. The prospect of a Littler-Humphries final rematch captivated the darting world, their contrasting styles and mutual respect creating a rivalry that promised to define professional darts for years to come. The tournament field assembled with remarkable depth, reflecting the PDC's continued success in developing elite talent through its various tour systems and the increasing globalization of professional darts. Players from diverse geographical backgrounds now competed at the highest level, their varied playing styles enriching the sport and demonstrating that darting excellence transcended national boundaries. The competitive standard had risen to levels that would have seemed impossible just a decade earlier, with multiple players now capable of producing sustained averages exceeding 100 and finishing at percentages that represented near-perfect execution. This evolution created a tournament environment where margin for error had compressed dramatically, any temporary lapse in concentration potentially resulting in elimination against opponents capable of capitalizing ruthlessly on momentary vulnerability. Michael Van Gerwen's participation generated intrigue, as Mighty Mike sought to prove that his semi-final appearance in the previous year's championship had not been an isolated resurgence but rather evidence of sustained revival. The Dutchman's form throughout 2025 had been encouragingly consistent, his scoring power largely intact and his finishing showing improvement from the struggles that had plagued him in recent years. Yet realistic observers recognized that Van Gerwen was unlikely to reclaim the absolute dominance that had characterized his peak years, as younger players had emerged with technical abilities and mental approaches that matched or exceeded his own. Whether Van Gerwen could continue competing at the highest level and potentially add to his championship tally remained possible but increasingly improbable given the enhanced competition and his advancing age. Peter Wright's arrival at the tournament carried the poignancy of a former champion whose peak years appeared definitively behind him. Though Snakebite's unpredictable nature meant dismissing him entirely would be premature, Wright's elaborate hairstyles and flamboyant outfits continued generating attention, though beneath the showmanship lay a player whose technical consistency and mental approach had deteriorated noticeably from his championship-winning years. Wright's situation demonstrated the inevitable challenges facing aging champions, where physical abilities gradually diminish and younger challengers show no fear of established reputations. Yet his unconventional approach and willingness to experiment with equipment and technique meant that unexpected resurgences remained possible, even if sustained excellence at championship level appeared increasingly unlikely. The early rounds featured several impressive performances from the rising generation, confirming that professional darts' competitive depth extended far beyond the obvious elite. Multiple young players demonstrated technical abilities and mental approaches that would have made them championship contenders in earlier eras, though the current depth meant that exceptional talent alone no longer guaranteed tournament success. The evolution in playing standards created fascinating dynamics, where players needed not just exceptional technical ability but also mental resilience, physical stamina, and tactical awareness to navigate successfully through increasingly challenging draws. The margin separating tournament victory from early elimination had compressed dramatically, creating an environment where sustained excellence over extended periods represented the primary differentiator between champions and nearly men. Luke Littler's progress through the draw featured gradually escalating performances, as the Nuke demonstrated the champion's ability to raise his game when facing increasingly difficult challenges. His scoring throughout the tournament remained devastating, his capacity to consistently hit heavy numbers creating sustained pressure that forced opponents into uncomfortable reactive positions. More impressively, his finishing continued showing improvement, the clinical efficiency on pressure doubles demonstrating ongoing technical development alongside his already exceptional natural talents. Littler's mental approach appeared completely transformed from his teenage years, the composed focus and tactical awareness suggesting maturity that belied his youth and promised sustained excellence for years to come. The 2026 championship showcased a new generation ready to dominate professional darts' future. The inaugural WDF World Championship commenced in November 2022 at the Lakeside Country Club in Frimley Green, representing a bittersweet attempt to preserve elements of traditional darts heritage following the BDO's catastrophic collapse 2 years earlier. The World Darts Federation, which had existed since 1976 primarily as darts' international governing body, found itself thrust into the unfamiliar role of organizing a world championship and providing competitive structure for players displaced by the BDO's demise. The return to Lakeside carried enormous symbolic significance, as the familiar venue provided tangible connection to professional darts' historical roots and offered hope that traditional darts spirit might survive despite the BDO's organizational failure. Yet realistic observers recognized that the WDF Championship, however well-intentioned, could never reclaim the prestige and competitive standing that Lakeside had enjoyed during the BDO's glory years. The tournament field assembled with a mixture of former BDO players seeking continued competitive opportunities and younger talents who lacked PDC tour cards but possessed genuine darting ability. The competitive depth, while respectable, could not compare to either the PDC's current standards or the BDO's historical quality during its peak years. Most of the best former BDO players had successfully transitioned to the PDC circuit, leaving the WDF with a field that represented professional darts' third tier rather than a credible alternative to mainstream competition. This uncomfortable reality did not diminish the tournament's importance to participants, for whom the WDF Championship represented their highest competitive aspiration and potentially their only opportunity for significant prize money and recognition. The situation highlighted professional sports' harsh realities, where organizational affiliation and competitive context significantly affect whether talented athletes receive appropriate recognition for their abilities. The atmosphere at Lakeside felt simultaneously nostalgic and melancholic, as devoted fans who remembered the venue's glory years attempted to recreate the traditional championship experience. The intimate setting and accessible ticket prices provided advantages compared to the PDC's increasingly commercialized Alexandra Palace spectacular, creating an environment where spectators felt genuinely connected to the action rather than being anonymous faces in massive crowds. Yet the sparse attendance at many sessions and the absence of significant television coverage could not be ignored. Uncomfortable reminders that the WDF Championship existed on professional darts periphery rather than at its competitive center. The contrast with concurrent PDC events was stark and undeniable, highlighting how completely the PDC had won the organizational battle that began with the acrimonious split 3 decades earlier. Neil Duff's victory in the inaugural WDF World Championship represented authentic sporting achievement occurring within diminished competitive context, his combination of solid scoring and reliable finishing proving sufficient to navigate a field that lacked the depth of previous eras. Duff, a Scottish player who had remained within traditional dart structure rather than pursuing PDC opportunities, demonstrated genuine talent and championship temperament in claiming the title. His victory provided personal satisfaction and financial reward, though the muted reaction beyond the WDF's loyal supporter base highlighted the tournament's limited impact on professional dart's broader narrative. Duff faced a cruel dilemma common to all WDF champions: celebrate achievement that represented the pinnacle of available opportunities while simultaneously wondering whether greater recognition might have been possible within the PDC structure. The Women's Championship, held concurrently with the men's event, provided one of the WDF's genuinely positive achievements in continuing to support female players and provide equal platform for women's competitive darts. The WDF had inherited the BDO's progressive tradition of treating women's darts with equivalent seriousness to the men's game, a policy that contrasted favorably with the PDC's historically limited opportunities for female competitors. Thibaut Tricol's victory in the Women's Championship demonstrated the international depth developing within women's darts, as talented players emerged from diverse geographical backgrounds. Yet even this achievement occurred against the backdrop of the PDC's increasing engagement with women's darts, as players like Fallon Sherrock demonstrated that female players could compete successfully against male opponents in mainstream PDC events. The tournament's organization and presentation, while competent, could not match the PDC's professional standards and commercial sophistication. The WDF operated with limited resources and minimal television coverage, creating a championship that felt more like an enthusiastic amateur production than a professional sporting event. This reality did not reflect poorly on the WDF's dedicated volunteers and administrators, who worked diligently with available resources to provide competitive opportunities. Rather, it highlighted the enormous gap that had developed between the PDC's commercial success and the limited resources available to alternative organizations. The disparity demonstrated how professional sport increasingly requires substantial financial investment and commercial infrastructure to achieve legitimacy and recognition in modern entertainment marketplace. The media coverage of the inaugural WDF Championship proved minimal beyond specialist darting publications and websites, with mainstream outlets largely ignoring the event in favor of concurrent PDC tournaments. This lack of attention was perhaps inevitable given the WDF's limited competitive depth and the absence of major stars, yet it created a vicious cycle where reduced visibility made attracting sponsors and spectators progressively more difficult. The situation demonstrated professional sport's harsh commercial realities, where media attention concentrates on whatever competition features the best players competing for the largest prizes. The WDF Championship carved out its niche serving players outside the PDC mainstream. The 2023 WDF World Championship returned to Lakeside Country Club in November, representing the organization's second attempt to establish sustainable competitive structure following the inaugural tournament's modest success. The WDF had learned valuable lessons from the Maiden Championship, implementing modest improvements to organization and presentation while maintaining realistic expectations about the tournament's place within professional dart's broader landscape. The championship's return to Lakeside carried continued symbolic significance, though the initial novelty of reclaiming the traditional venue had faded, replaced by pragmatic acknowledgement that nostalgia alone could not sustain long-term viability. The WDF faced the challenge of demonstrating that the inaugural championship had not been isolated achievement but rather the foundation for ongoing competitive opportunities. The tournament field assembled with similar composition to the previous year, featuring former BDO players, talented amateurs seeking breakthrough opportunities, and younger players developing their games outside the PDC structure. The competitive depth remained respectable but limited, with most genuinely elite former BDO players having successfully transitioned to the PDC or retired from competitive darts entirely. This reality created a field where upsets were common not because competition was particularly intense but rather because talent levels had compressed downward, where multiple players possessed similar abilities without anyone establishing clear superiority. The situation paralleled the late-period BDO, where frequent unexpected results reflected diminished depth rather than enhanced competitive balance. The atmosphere at Lakeside retained its intimate charm, with dedicated supporters creating a welcoming environment that contrasted favorably with the PDC's increasingly corporate Alexandra Palace experience. The accessible ticket prices and relaxed atmosphere appealed to traditional darting fans who valued personal connection and historical continuity over commercial spectacle and celebrity culture. Yet the sparse attendance at many sessions remained concerning, suggesting that even dedicated supporters found maintaining enthusiasm difficult when competitive quality and media coverage remained so obviously inferior to concurrent PDC events. The WDF faced the uncomfortable reality that sentiment and tradition, while valuable, could not indefinitely sustain tournaments lacking broader appeal and commercial viability. Jim Williams' victory in the 2023 championship provided a feel-good story, as the Welsh part-time player who had reached consecutive BDO finals claimed his first world title at age 52. Williams' journey epitomized traditional darts' grassroots appeal, demonstrating that dedication and talent could still produce results even for players maintaining full-time employment outside professional sport. His combination of solid scoring and reliable finishing proved sufficient to navigate the field, while his experience and composure under pressure separated him from younger opponents who possessed technical ability but lacked championship temperament. Williams' emotional celebration revealed the personal significance of achievement that had eluded him during the BDO's final years, providing touching human drama that resonated with spectators who appreciated underdog triumphs. The Women's Championship continued demonstrating international depth, as talented players from diverse geographical backgrounds competed for the title. The WDF's commitment to providing equal platform for women's darts represented one of its genuinely progressive achievements, continuing the BDO's tradition of treating female competitors with equivalent seriousness to male players. Yet even this positive development occurred against the backdrop of the PDC's increasing engagement with women's darts, as Fallon Sherrock's continued success in mixed-gender PDC events demonstrated that the highest competitive level for female players might now exist within mainstream professional darts rather than separate women's championships. The situation created uncomfortable questions about whether separate women's tournaments remained necessary or whether integration into mixed-gender competition represented women's darts' optimal future. The tournament's media coverage remained minimal beyond specialist darting publications, with mainstream outlets largely ignoring the WDF Championship in favor of concurrent PDC tournaments featuring recognizable stars competing for substantially larger prizes. This lack of attention perpetuated the vicious cycle where reduced visibility made attracting commercial sponsors progressively more difficult, which in turn limited prize funds and made retaining talented players increasingly challenging. The WDF found itself trapped in a situation where improving competitive quality required financial resources that could only be secured through enhanced commercial appeal. Yet commercial appeal depended on competitive quality that current resources could not sustain. This circular dilemma had no obvious solution, suggesting that the WDF Championship's long-term viability remained uncertain despite successful execution of individual tournaments. The 2023 Championships organization showed modest improvements from the inaugural event, as the WDF implemented lessons learned and refined operational procedures. The tournament ran smoothly, matches commenced on schedule, and participants generally expressed satisfaction with competitive conditions. Yet these organizational competencies, while necessary, proved insufficient to generate broader interest or challenge the PDC's dominance. The WDF faced the reality that professional sport requires not just competent organization but also compelling narratives, recognizable stars, and commercial infrastructure to capture public imagination and secure sustainable funding. The championship's limited impact beyond its immediate participant and supporter base highlighted how difficult establishing viable alternative competitive structures had become in modern professional sports' consolidated landscape. Jim Williams' triumph completed an unlikely journey from consecutive BDO final defeats to WDF Championship glory, providing personal vindication and demonstrating that persistence could eventually produce rewards. The WDF World Championships of 2024 and 2025 continued the patterns established by previous tournaments, providing consistent if modest competitive opportunities for players operating outside the PDC structure while accepting the organization's subordinate position within professional darts hierarchy. The championships maintained their connection to Lakeside Country Club, preserving symbolic links to traditional darts heritage even as the competitive context and broader significance remained dramatically different from the venue's glory years. The WDF had settled into a sustainable if limited operational model, organizing competent annual tournaments that served dedicated participant and supporter bases without pretending to rival the PDC's dominance or reclaim historical prestige that had been irretrievably lost with the BDO's collapse. The 2024 championship witnessed another chapter in the WDF's ongoing story, as a field of former BDO players and talented amateurs competed for the title at Lakeside. The tournament's organization continued showing incremental improvements, with refined scheduling and enhanced presentation demonstrating the WDF's commitment to maximizing quality within available resources. Neil Duff's return to championship glory, having won the inaugural WDF title 2 years earlier, provided a degree of continuity and established him as the organization's most successful player. Duff's technical abilities and championship temperaments separated him from opponents who possessed comparable skills but lacked the mental strength and experience required to prevail under pressure. His victory demonstrated that the WDF had developed its own competitive hierarchy, where certain players had emerged as favorites based on their consistent excellence within this specific context. The Women's Championship continued providing valuable competitive opportunities, with the WDF maintaining its commitment to equal platform and recognition for female players. The international diversity within women's darts remained impressive, as talented players from Europe, Asia, and beyond competed for championship glory. Yet the ongoing development of women's opportunities within the PDC structure created increasingly complicated dynamics, as the most talented female players recognized that competing in mixed-gender PDC events offered greater prize money, enhanced visibility, and more significant career advancement opportunities than success in separate women's championships. The situation raised fundamental questions about women's darts' optimal competitive structure, whether separate championships remained beneficial or whether full integration into mixed-gender competition represented the sport's future. The 2025 championship unfolded with familiar patterns largely intact, though subtle changes suggested the WDF was attempting modest innovations to enhance appeal and sustainability. The tournament field maintained respectable quality within its acknowledged limitations, featuring a mixture of experienced former BDO players and younger talents seeking breakthrough opportunities. The competitive standard, while inferior to PDC levels, nonetheless produced moments of genuine darting excellence that demonstrated the participants' abilities deserved recognition even if broader audiences remained largely unaware of their achievements. The WDF Championship had carved out a specific niche within professional darts landscape, providing opportunities for players who lacked PDC tour cards but possessed sufficient ability and dedication to compete at respectable levels. The atmosphere at Lakeside retained its distinctive character, with intimate crowds creating a personal connection to the action that contrasted favorably with the PDC's massive Alexandra Palace audiences. The dedicated supporters who continued attending WDF Championships valued tradition, accessibility, and the opportunity to witness competitive darts without the commercial overlay and celebrity culture increasingly characteristic of mainstream PDC events. Yet even these loyal fans recognized the WDF's limitations, their support motivated more by appreciation for what the championships represented historically than by belief that the tournaments could ever reclaim competitive significance or challenge the PDC's dominance. The situation created a melancholic atmosphere where genuine enjoyment coexisted with acknowledgement of diminished circumstances. The media coverage of WDF championships remained minimal, with specialist darting websites providing basic results and occasional feature content while mainstream outlets ignored the tournaments entirely. This lack of broader attention was perhaps inevitable given the limited competitive depth and absence of recognizable stars, yet it perpetuated challenges regarding commercial viability and long-term sustainability. The WDF had accepted that operating with limited resources and modest ambitions represented realistic acknowledgement of professional darts' current landscape rather than defeatism or lack of dedication. The organization focused on competent execution of annual tournaments and providing meaningful opportunities for grateful participants rather than pursuing unrealistic goals of challenging PDC dominance. The championship winners across these years demonstrated that genuine talent and competitive fire existed within the WDF structure, even if organizational affiliation and competitive context meant these achievements received limited recognition. The victors' celebrations revealed the personal significance of accomplishments that represented the pinnacle of available opportunities within their specific circumstances. Whether these players might have achieved greater success within the PDC structure remained unknowable, though the reality that most had chosen traditional darts over pursuing PDC opportunities suggested either preference for the WDF's environment or realistic assessment that their abilities might prove insufficient for consistent PDC success. The WDF Championships established themselves as annual fixtures within professional darts calendar, occupying a specific niche that served valuable purposes despite obvious limitations. The tournaments provided continued competitive opportunities for displaced players, maintained connections to traditional darts heritage, and ensured pathways to championship glory for talented performers outside the PDC system. The 2026 WDF World Championship represents the organization's fifth annual tournament since establishing its World Championship following the BDO's collapse, marking a milestone that demonstrates modest success in providing continued competitive structure for players operating outside mainstream professional darts. The championship returns once again to Lakeside Country Club, the familiar venue providing continuity and symbolic connection to traditional darts heritage even as the competitive context remains dramatically different from the glory years when the BDO attracted the sport's elite talent. The WDF has settled into a sustainable operational model, organizing competent annual tournaments that serve dedicated participant and supporter bases without pretending to challenge the PDC's absolute dominance or reclaim prestige that was lost irretrievably when professional darts split decisively between dominant mainstream organization and various marginal alternatives. The tournament field assembles with familiar composition, featuring former BDO players now in their late careers, talented amateurs seeking breakthrough opportunities, and younger players developing their games outside the PDC structure. The competitive depth, while respectable within acknowledged limitations, cannot compare to the PDC's extraordinary standards or even the BDO's quality during its peak years. The field represents professional darts third tier, players who possess genuine ability but lack either the credentials or confidence to pursue PDC opportunities. This reality does not diminish the tournament's importance to participants, for whom the WDF Championship represents their highest competitive aspiration and potentially their only opportunity for significant recognition and prize money. The situation highlights professional sports' harsh realities, where organizational affiliation and competitive context significantly affect whether talented athletes receive appropriate acknowledgement for their abilities. The atmosphere at Lakeside retains its distinctive intimate character, with dedicated supporters creating a welcoming environment that contrasts with the PDC's increasingly commercialized Alexandra Palace spectacular. The accessible ticket prices and relaxed atmosphere appeal to traditional darting fans who value personal connection and historical continuity over corporate entertainment and celebrity culture. Yet the attendance figures remain modest, with many sessions featuring sparse crowds that create awkward acoustics and limited energy compared to the raucous celebrations characteristic of packed venues. The WDF has learned to work within these constraints, focusing on serving its dedicated supporter base rather than pursuing unrealistic goals of attracting mainstream audiences who have clearly chosen to follow the PDC instead. The competitive standard at the 2026 championship showcases both the WDF's value and its limitations, as talented players produce moments of genuine excellence interspersed with performances that highlight the gap separating this level from PDC standards. The tournament features respectable darts that would have been competitive in earlier eras, demonstrating that the participants possess authentic ability rather than being merely enthusiastic amateurs. Yet comparison with concurrent PDC events reveals the enormous gulf in scoring power, finishing efficiency, and sustained excellence that distinguishes professional darts elite from its periphery. The WDF Championships have carved out a specific niche serving players and supporters who value tradition and accessibility over the pursuit of absolute excellence, a role that deserves acknowledgement even if broader significance remains limited. The Women's Championship continues demonstrating international depth and competitive intensity, with talented female players from diverse geographical backgrounds competing for the title. The WDF maintains its commitment to providing equal platform and recognition for women's darts, continuing the progressive tradition inherited from the BDO. Bo Greaves' victory in the 2026 Women's Championship represents a significant moment, as the young English player had already demonstrated her ability to compete successfully against male opponents in PDC events before choosing to participate in the WDF Championship. Greaves' decision to compete at Lakeside despite PDC opportunities suggests that some talented players value the specific environment and traditions the WDF provides rather than viewing mainstream professional darts as the only legitimate competitive destination. Yet Greaves' situation also highlights ongoing tensions regarding women's darts' optimal competitive structure, as her success in mixed-gender PDC events raises questions about whether separate women's championships remain necessary or beneficial. The debate extends beyond the WDF specifically to encompass fundamental questions about whether women's sports benefit from separate competitive structures providing guaranteed opportunities or whether full integration into mixed-gender competition represents the path toward equality and recognition. The WDF's Women's Championship provides valuable competitive outlet and maintains traditions, yet younger female players increasingly view PDC opportunities as offering greater career advancement and recognition. The situation suggests that women's darts may be transitioning toward models where separate championships serve developmental purposes rather than representing ultimate competitive destinations. The media coverage of the 2026 WDF Championship remains minimal, with specialist darting websites providing basic results and occasional feature content while mainstream outlets ignore the tournament entirely in favor of concurrent PDC events. This lack of broader attention perpetuates challenges regarding commercial viability and long-term sustainability, as reduced visibility makes attracting sponsors progressively more difficult. The WDF has accepted this reality, focusing on competent execution within available resources rather than pursuing unrealistic promotional ambitions. The organization's pragmatic approach acknowledges professional dart's current landscape while maximizing opportunities for players who fall outside the PDC's elite tier. The WDF Championship represents professional dart's alternative pathway to glory. The evolution of women's professional darts from marginalized curiosity to increasingly integrated and recognized component of the sport represents one of the most significant developments in modern darting history. For decades, women's darts existed primarily in separate competitive structures, with the BDO providing the most prominent platform through its Women's World Championship and associated tournaments. Female players competed almost exclusively against other women, with occasional exhibition matches against male opponents treated as novelties rather than serious competitive encounters. This separation reflected broader assumptions about gender differences in sporting ability, with conventional wisdom suggesting that women could not compete successfully against male opponents in darts despite the sport's relatively minimal physical strength requirements. The breakthrough performances of players like Fallon Sherrock and Bo Greaves would challenge these assumptions fundamentally, demonstrating that women possess the technical ability, mental strength, and competitive fire to succeed in mixed-gender competition at the highest levels. Fallon Sherrock's historic victories at the 2020 PDC World Championship represented a watershed moment that transformed women's darts and challenged long-held beliefs about gender limitations in the sport. Sherrock, competing in the Men's World Championship after earning her place through qualifying events, defeated both Ted Evans and Mensur Suljovic in stunning performances that showcased her scoring power and nerveless finishing under intense pressure. Her achievements transcended sport to become a cultural moment, as mainstream media outlets extensively covered her barrier-breaking performances and introduced darts to audiences far beyond its traditional demographic. Sherrock's composed brilliance under unprecedented scrutiny demonstrated championship temperament, while her gracious post-match interviews and obvious delight in her achievements made her instantly likable and marketable. The victories proved conclusively that women could compete successfully against male opponents at elite levels, demolishing arguments about inherent gender limitations that had persisted despite lacking empirical foundation. The impact of Sherrock's breakthrough extended far beyond her individual achievements, as her success opened doors for other talented female players and forced the PDC to reconsider its historically limited engagement with women's darts. The organization began providing more opportunities for female players to compete in mixed-gender events, recognizing both the competitive merit of top female players and the commercial potential of integrated competition. Sherrock's continued success in subsequent PDC tournaments confirmed that her World Championship performances were not isolated achievements but rather evidence of sustained excellence that deserved recognition and opportunity. Her evolution from BDO competitor to PDC regular demonstrated the career advancement possible when talented female players gained access to mainstream professional darts' superior platform and resources. Bo Greaves emerged as perhaps the most naturally gifted female player in darting history. Her combination of devastating scoring power, clinical finishing, and composed temperament marking her as potentially capable of winning major PDC titles rather than merely competing respectably. Greaves' technical abilities matched or exceeded many male professionals, her smooth throwing action producing remarkable consistency and her averages regularly exceeding 100 over extended periods. Her youth and obvious potential suggested that women's darts might be entering an era where the best female players could genuinely challenge for mixed-gender championships rather than competing primarily in separate women's events. Greaves' decision to compete in both women's championships and mixed-gender PDC events demonstrated the increasingly complex choices facing talented female players, who must balance guaranteed success in women's competitions against the greater challenge and recognition available through mainstream professional darts. Lisa Ashton's sustained excellence over multiple decades established her as one of women's darts' all-time greats. Her multiple World Championship victories achieved through consistent brilliance that deserved far greater recognition than the BDO's diminished platform could provide. Ashton's technical abilities and championship temperament would have made her competitive in any era. Her smooth action and reliable finishing demonstrating authentic darting excellence. Her transition to competing in PDC events after the BDO's collapse showcased her willingness to test herself against male opponents rather than accepting the limitations of separate women's competitions. Ashton's performances in mixed-gender PDC tournaments, while not matching her dominance of women's events, proved she possessed the ability to compete respectably at higher levels and demonstrated that age need not prevent female players from pursuing mainstream professional opportunities. The debate about optimal competitive structures for women's darts remains ongoing and complex, with reasonable arguments supporting both separate women's championships and full integration into mixed-gender competition. Advocates for separate women's events argue that dedicated championships provide guaranteed opportunities for female players to achieve recognition and financial reward that might be difficult to secure in mixed-gender competitions dominated by male players. They point to successful examples in other sports where women's competitions have flourished independently, creating stars and commercial success that might not have been possible within integrated structures. The counterargument suggests that true equality requires integration rather than separation, that maintaining separate women's competitions implicitly accepts the premise that female players cannot compete successfully against male opponents despite evidence suggesting otherwise. The PDC's evolving approach to women's darts reflects these tensions, as the organization has gradually increased opportunities for female players while maintaining some separate women's events. The future direction remains subject to ongoing debate about optimal competitive structures. The modern era of World Championship darts, spanning from the BDO-PDC split through the present day, represents a period of unprecedented transformation that fundamentally reshaped professional darts organizational structure, competitive standards, commercial viability, and global reach. The sport evolved from a primarily British pub game with modest television coverage into a genuinely international entertainment spectacle attracting massive live audiences, substantial prize funds, and mainstream media attention that extends far beyond traditional darting demographics. This transformation did not occur smoothly or inevitably, but rather through decades of organizational conflict, commercial experimentation, and gradual evolution of playing standards that established new benchmarks for excellence. The journey from the acrimonious split that created competing world championships through the PDC's ultimate dominance and the BDO's catastrophic collapse illustrates both the opportunities and dangers inherent in professional sports commercialization and organizational politics. The technical evolution of professional darts during this period proves remarkable when comparing contemporary performances with earlier eras, as scoring averages, finishing percentages, and sustained excellence have increased dramatically. Players like Michael van Gerwen and Luke Humphries routinely produce averages exceeding 100 over extended periods, a standard that would have been exceptional in earlier eras but has become almost commonplace among the modern elite. The 9-dart finish, once a rare and celebrated achievement, now occurs multiple times per season as technical standards continue rising. This evolution reflects improved training methods, enhanced equipment technology, dedicated fitness and mental conditioning programs, and the professionalization of approaches that were once largely intuitive and individualistic. The gap between contemporary elite performers and historical champions raises fascinating questions about cross-generational comparisons, whether modern players are genuinely superior or whether they benefit from accumulated knowledge and improved conditions that earlier champions lacked. The globalization of professional darts represents another significant development. as the sport has expanded beyond its traditional British strongholds to attract talent from diverse geographical backgrounds. Players from the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, Austria, and increasingly from Asia, North America, and beyond now compete at the highest levels, their varied cultural approaches and playing styles enriching the sport. This international expansion has been driven primarily by the PDC's deliberate efforts to develop global markets through tournaments, qualifying systems, and promotional activities targeting new regions. The success of players like Michael van Gerwen in becoming global superstars demonstrates dart's potential to transcend national boundaries and appeal to international audiences when presented professionally and marketed effectively. The sport's continued globalization promises to enhance competitive depth and commercial viability while raising questions about whether traditional darting culture will be diluted or evolved by increasing international influence. The commercial transformation of professional darts during the modern era proves equally dramatic, as the sport has attracted substantial sponsorship investment, television rights fees, and prize funds that would have seemed impossible during the BDO's dominance. The PDC's willingness to embrace commercial opportunities, experiment with presentation formats, and market aggressively to broader audiences created a virtuous cycle where success attracted resources that enabled further growth and development. The contrast with the BDO's conservative approach and ultimate failure demonstrates that tradition and history alone cannot sustain sporting organizations in modern entertainment marketplace, that commercial sophistication and willingness to adapt represent essential requirements for long-term viability. The PDC's success has transformed darts from marginal curiosity into a commercial enterprise generating substantial revenues and providing career opportunities for hundreds of professional players. The future of World Championship darts appears secure in the immediate term, with the PDC's dominance firmly established and the Alexandra Palace Spectacular having become one of sport's most recognizable annual events. Yet longer-term questions remain about sustaining growth trajectories, whether the sport can continue expanding into new markets, and how evolving media consumption habits might affect traditional tournament formats and broadcast models. The emergence of exceptional young talents like Luke Littler suggests that competitive quality will continue improving, potentially attracting new audiences drawn to spectacular performances and compelling personalities. The challenge facing professional darts involves maintaining the delicate balance between commercial growth and sporting integrity, ensuring that pursuit of revenue does not compromise the authentic competitive excellence that ultimately drives public interest. The organizational landscape of World Championship darts has stabilized following decades of conflict and competition, with the PDC's dominance now effectively absolute and alternative organizations like the WDF occupying clearly subordinate niches. This consolidation provides stability and clarity that benefits players, sponsors, and spectators who no longer face confusion about which organization represents professional dart's legitimate center. Yet monopolistic control also creates potential dangers, as lack of competitive pressure can breed complacency and reduce incentives for innovation and improvement. The WDF's continued existence, however modest, provides at least theoretical alternative for players dissatisfied with PDC policies, maintaining some organizational plurality that might prove valuable if the PDC's management falters or becomes excessively exploitative. The technological advances affecting modern darts extend beyond improved dart design and board construction to encompass statistical analysis, performance tracking, and data-driven approaches to training and preparation. The modern era represents professional darts at its absolute peak of development and global reach. The history of World Championship darts contains numerous matches that transcended ordinary competitive encounters to become defining moments in the sport's evolution. Contests where technical excellence combined with dramatic narrative and emotional intensity to create enduring memories. These classic matches often occurred at the championship's most crucial stages, where accumulated pressure and the magnitude of potential achievement elevated performances beyond normal standards. The greatest finals and semi-finals featured not just exceptional darts but also compelling human drama, as players battled through adversity, overcame psychological barriers, and produced their best performances when circumstances demanded ultimate excellence. Understanding these iconic encounters provides insight into what separates merely good darts from genuinely historic sporting moments, how technical ability combines with mental strength and competitive context to create matches that resonate decades after their conclusion. The 1994 BDO World Championship final between John Part and Bobby George represented one of the sport's most dramatic encounters, as the Canadian challenger faced the beloved English showman in a match that captivated audiences through its contrast in styles and personalities. Part's clinical efficiency and composed demeanor contrasted sharply with George's flamboyant celebrations and theatrical approach, creating a narrative tension that extended beyond pure darting ability. The match swung back and forth as both players produced moments of brilliance interspersed with periods where pressure affected performance, demonstrating how championship finals can test mental strength as much as technical skill. Part's eventual victory announced his arrival as a world-class player while providing Bobby George with another heartbreaking near-miss in his quest for World Championship glory. The match demonstrated how contrasting personalities and playing styles could create compelling drama that engaged audiences emotionally rather than just appreciating technical excellence. Phil Taylor's 2002 PDC World Championship final victory over Peter Manley featured some of the most devastating darts ever witnessed on the Alexandra Palace stage, as the power produced sustained excellence that left his opponent with virtually no opportunities to establish competitive presence. Taylor's combination of relentless scoring and clinical finishing reached levels that seemed to redefine what was possible in professional darts, his averages soaring above 110 over extended periods while maintaining finishing percentages that approached perfection. Manley, a talented player in excellent form, found himself completely overwhelmed by Taylor's brilliance, his own respectable performances rendered inadequate by his opponent's extraordinary standards. The final demonstrated the gulf that existed between Taylor at his absolute peak and even very good professional players, showcasing why the power dominated his era so completely. The match also illustrated how one-sided contests can still generate compelling viewing when the victor's performance reaches transcendent levels that demonstrate the sport's ultimate possibilities. The 2007 PDC World Championship final between Raymond van Barneveld and Phil Taylor delivered on its enormous promise, producing a match that many observers consider the greatest World Championship final in darting history. The encounter featured sustained excellence from both players, with Taylor's usual dominance challenged by Barney's combination of brilliant scoring and nerveless finishing. The match swung back and forth multiple times as both champions produced their best darts under maximum pressure, demonstrating why they had dominated professional darts for over a decade. The final's dramatic conclusion, with Van Barneveld prevailing in a sudden death leg after the scores were level, provided the perfect climax to an epic encounter. The match transcended sport to become a cultural moment that attracted mainstream attention and demonstrated professional darts' capacity to produce genuine drama. The mutual respect displayed by both players, despite the intensity of competition and the magnitude of what was at stake, provided a masterclass in how champions can compete ferociously while maintaining dignity and sportsmanship. Michael van Gerwen's 2017 PDC World Championship final defeat to Rob Cross represented one of the sport's greatest upsets, as the dominant world number one suffered a comprehensive loss to a player making his championship debut. The match demonstrated how championship finals can expose psychological vulnerabilities even in the most accomplished players, as Van Gerwen appeared unsettled by Cross's fearless approach and inability to be intimidated by reputation or occasion. Cross's combination of heavy scoring and clinical finishing overwhelmed Mighty Mike, whose usually automatic doubles showed signs of tension as the match progressed. The result proved that talent alone does not guarantee victory when facing opponents who possess both ability and the mental freedom that comes from having nothing to lose. Cross's triumph provided one of darting's great underdog stories while raising questions about whether Van Gerwen's period of absolute dominance might be transitioning toward a more competitive era. Gary Anderson's battles with Michael Van Gerwen produced numerous classic encounters, their contrasting styles and mutual respect creating matches that showcased professional darts at its finest. Anderson's deliberate, methodical approach contrasted with Van Gerwen's explosive aggression, creating tactical and psychological dynamics that extended beyond pure technical ability. Their 2015 and 2016 World Championship meetings featured sustained excellence and dramatic momentum swings, as both players produced moments of brilliance while also showing occasional vulnerability under pressure. Anderson's victories demonstrated that Van Gerwen's dominance was not absolute, that players combining exceptional ability with mental strength and tactical awareness could prevail against Mighty Mike even when he was operating near peak form. The rivalry elevated both players, pushing them to produce their best darts and creating compelling narratives that engaged audiences. These classic encounters defined championship darts across the generations. The 9-dart finish represents professional darts' ultimate achievement, a perfect leg requiring flawless execution under pressure and demonstrating mastery of both scoring and finishing at the highest level. The accomplishment demands hitting two 180 maximums followed by a 141 checkout, typically achieved through triple 20, triple 19, and double 12, though alternative routes exist through different combinations of high scores and checkouts. For decades, the 9-dart finish remained extraordinarily rare in professional competition, with each occurrence treated as a momentous achievement worthy of celebration and detailed analysis. The evolution from extreme rarity to relative commonality reflects rising technical standards in professional darts, improved equipment and playing conditions, and enhanced mental preparation that allows elite players to maintain composure during attempts at perfection. Understanding the history and significance of 9-dart finishes provides insight into how professional darts technical standards have evolved and what separates truly elite performers from merely excellent players. Phil Taylor's numerous 9-dart finishes during his career established the power as the undisputed master of perfect legs, his ability to produce flawless darts under championship pressure demonstrating why he dominated professional darts for over 2 decades. Taylor's first televised 9-darter occurred during the 2002 World Match Play, though he had achieved the feat in non-televised competitions previously. His composed demeanor during 9-dart attempts reflected supreme confidence and technical mastery, as if perfection was simply another checkbox in his methodical demolition of opponents. Taylor's multiple 9-darters in World Championship play demonstrated his capacity to produce ultimate excellence on the sport's biggest stages, refusing to be overwhelmed by occasion or pressure. His clinical approach to perfect legs illustrated how champions combine technical ability with mental strength, maintaining focus and execution even when aware that history-making achievement is potentially imminent. Taylor's 9-dart finishes became so frequent during his peak years that they almost lost their novelty, a testament to how completely he had mastered professional darts' technical requirements. Raymond van Barnevelt's 9-dart finish during the 2009 PDC World Championship provided one of the tournament's most memorable moments, as Barney achieved perfection en route to championship glory. The perfect leg occurred during a crucial match where momentum and confidence were contested as vigorously as actual legs won, Van Barnevelt's flawless darts providing psychological boost that carried through subsequent matches. The achievement demonstrated that Van Barnevelt possessed the technical mastery and mental strength required to produce perfect darts under ultimate pressure, refusing to be intimidated by the magnitude of potential accomplishment. Barney's emotional celebration revealed how much the 9-darter meant, validation of technical excellence and confirmation of championship pedigree. The perfect leg contributed to Van Barnevelt's championship narrative, becoming part of the story explaining how he overcame challenges to claim world title glory. Adrian Lewis achieved back-to-back 9-dart finishes during the 2011 World Championship, an unprecedented accomplishment that demonstrated extraordinary technical consistency and mental composure. Lewis' ability to produce perfection multiple times within the same tournament showcased not just momentary brilliance but sustained excellence at the absolute highest level. The achievement generated significant attention and analysis, as observers marveled at how Lewis could maintain the focus and execution required for perfect legs while also managing the broader demands of championship competition. The back-to-back 9-darters became defining moments in Lewis' championship victory, demonstrating that his triumph resulted from sustained brilliance rather than fortunate timing or favorable draws. Lewis' composed demeanor during both perfect legs reflected supreme confidence and technical mastery, his ability to execute flawlessly under pressure separating him from talented players who wilted when facing similar opportunities. Michael van Gerwen's numerous 9-dart finishes throughout his career established Mighty Mike as one of the elite group of players who could routinely produce perfection under championship pressure. Van Gerwen's aggressive approach to 9-dart attempts reflected his overall playing philosophy, attacking opportunities ruthlessly rather than becoming tentative when perfection seemed achievable. His combination of devastating scoring power and clinical finishing made 9-dart attempts almost routine occurrences during his matches. Opponents forced to witness potentially perfect legs multiple times per tournament. Van Gerwen's ability to maintain composure during 9-dart attempts despite the intense pressure demonstrated mental strength matching his obvious technical brilliance. His perfect legs became expected rather than surprising, testimony to how completely he had mastered professional darts' technical requirements during his peak years. Gary Anderson's 9-dart finishes demonstrated that the Flying Scotsman possessed technical mastery matching his obvious natural talent, his ability to produce perfection under pressure confirming championship pedigree. Anderson's approach to 9-dart attempts reflected his personality, combining fierce determination with apparent casualness that disguised intense focus. His perfect legs often occurred during crucial matches where momentum and confidence were contested vigorously, Anderson's flawless darts providing psychological advantages that extended beyond the immediate leg one. The achievements validated Anderson's status among professional darts elite, demonstrating that his World Championship victories resulted from complete mastery of the sport's technical demands rather than fortunate timing or weak opposition. The increasing frequency of 9-dart finishes in modern professional darts reflects rising technical standards that have transformed what was once extraordinary achievement into expected occurrence for elite players. The great rivalries in World Championship darts have provided compelling narratives that transcend individual matches to become defining storylines shaping how audiences understand and appreciate the sport's evolution. These rivalries combine genuine competitive excellence with contrasting personalities, playing styles, and approaches that create natural dramatic tension extending beyond pure technical ability. The best rivalries feature mutual respect coexisting with fierce competitive desire, players who acknowledge opponents' greatness while refusing to concede psychological advantage or accept inevitable defeat. Understanding these iconic rivalries provides insight into what makes professional darts compelling beyond technical execution, how personal dynamics and competitive history create emotional investment that transforms ordinary matches into must-watch encounters. The greatest rivalries endure in collective memory long after the participants retire, their encounters becoming reference points through which subsequent generations understand professional darts history and evolution. The rivalry between Phil Taylor and Raymond van Barneveld represents perhaps professional darts' most significant and enduring competitive relationship, their encounters spanning nearly 2 decades and encompassing some of the sport's most memorable matches. The rivalry began during the BDO era, when both players dominated their respective organizations before Taylor's switch to the PDC created years of separation. Van Barnevelt's eventual move to the PDC in 2006 reunited the champions and created anticipation about how their competitive relationship would develop within the same organizational structure. Their contrasting personalities created natural dramatic tension, with Taylor's cold efficiency and ruthless competitive drive facing Barney's more emotional approach and connection with audiences. The technical excellence both players demonstrated elevated professional darts' overall standard, their matches showcasing what was possible through combination of natural talent and dedicated development. The 2007 PDC World Championship final between Taylor and Van Barnevelt delivered the rivalry's defining moment, producing a match that many observers consider the greatest World Championship final in darting history. The encounter featured sustained excellence from both players over an extended period, neither willing to yield or accept defeat despite mounting pressure. Taylor's usual dominance faced genuine challenge from Van Barnevelt's combination of brilliant scoring and nerveless finishing, creating the rare scenario where the power could not simply overwhelm opposition through superior firepower. The match's dramatic conclusion, with Van Barnevelt prevailing in sudden death after scores were level, provided perfect climax to an epic encounter. The mutual respect displayed by both players despite competition's intensity demonstrated how champions can compete ferociously while maintaining dignity and sportsmanship. Van Barnevelt's victory proved that Taylor was not invincible, that players combining exceptional ability with mental strength and tactical awareness could prevail against the power even when he was operating near peak form. The subsequent matches between Taylor and Van Barnevelt continued producing compelling drama, though Taylor generally reasserted dominance in their later encounters. The psychological dynamic shifted following the 2007 final, as Van Barnevelt's breakthrough victory seemed to increase pressure on him while motivating Taylor to ensure such defeat would not be repeated. Their rivalry demonstrated how competitive relationships evolve over time. Initial uncertainties replaced by established patterns as players learn opponents' tendencies and develop specific tactical approaches. The respect both players maintained for each other throughout their rivalry provided masterclass in how champions can compete intensely while acknowledging opponents' greatness. Their encounters elevated both players, pushing them to produce their best darts and creating matches that engaged audiences emotionally rather than just appreciating technical excellence. The rivalry between Michael van Gerwen and Peter Wright emerged as the dominant competitive relationship of the 2010s, their contrasting styles and personalities creating natural dramatic tension. Van Gerwen's explosive aggression and confident demeanor faced Wright's flamboyant appearance and unconventional approach, creating matches where technical excellence combined with compelling human drama. Wright's willingness to experiment with equipment and technique contrasted sharply with Van Gerwen's consistent approach, creating tactical and psychological dynamics extending beyond pure darting ability. Their early encounters generally favored Van Gerwen, whose superior firepower and finishing overwhelmed Wright's occasionally erratic performances. Yet Wright's gradual development into complete champion meant their later matches became increasingly competitive. Snakebite learning how to match Mighty Mike's aggression while maintaining his own unique style. The 2020 PDC World Championship final between Wright and Van Gerwen represented their rivalry's defining moment, as Snakebite produced sustained brilliance to overwhelm the defending champion comprehensively. Wright's dominant performance demonstrated technical excellence and mental strength that had eluded him in previous big matches against Van Gerwen, proving he had finally developed the championship temperament required to prevail when stakes were highest. The manner of Wright's victory, achieved through relentless scoring and clinical finishing rather than fortunate timing or Van Gerwen's collapse, announced Snakebite's arrival as complete champion. The result shifted their rivalry's psychological dynamic, as Wright's breakthrough victory proved Van Gerwen was not invincible and that Snakebite possessed the game to compete successfully at the highest level. Their subsequent encounters continued producing compelling matches, though the power balance had shifted toward greater parity following Wright's World Championship triumph. The rivalry between Gary Anderson and Michael van Gerwen produced numerous classic encounters, their contrasting styles creating matches that showcased professional darts at its finest. The international expansion of professional darts from its traditional British strongholds into a genuinely global sport represents one of the most significant developments in the game's modern history. For decades, professional darts remained primarily a British phenomenon with limited international participation. The sport's cultural associations with pub culture and working-class entertainment creating barriers to global expansion. The dominance of British and Irish players in major championships reflected not just their superior abilities but also the limited opportunities for developing elite talent outside traditional darting regions. The transformation of professional darts into an international sport featuring world-class players from diverse geographical backgrounds required deliberate organizational efforts, enhanced commercial infrastructure, and the emergence of charismatic international stars who could inspire new generations of players in their home countries. Understanding this globalization process provides insight into how professional sports expand beyond their original cultural contexts and what factors enable or constrain international growth. The Netherlands emerged as the first major non-British power in professional darts, producing a succession of world-class players who could compete successfully at the highest levels. Raymond van Barneveldt's success in both BDO and PDC competitions demonstrated that Dutch players possessed technical abilities and competitive temperament matching their British counterparts. Van Barneveldt's multiple world championships and charismatic personality made him a national hero in the Netherlands, inspiring younger players and legitimizing darts as a serious sporting pursuit rather than merely pub entertainment. The subsequent emergence of Michael van Gerwen as professional darts' dominant force confirmed that Dutch excellence was systematic rather than isolated achievement, reflecting improved training infrastructure and cultural acceptance of darts as legitimate professional sport. Van Gerwen's extraordinary success, including multiple world championships and sustained excellence over extended periods, established the Netherlands as professional darts' premier non-British nation and demonstrated that international players could not just compete with but dominate the sport's traditional power. Belgium's emergence as a significant darting nation followed patterns established by Dutch success, with players like Kim Huybrechts and Dimitri van den Berg demonstrating world-class ability and inspiring younger generations. Van den Berg's breakthrough victories in major PDC tournaments announced Belgium's arrival as a genuine darting power, his combination of technical excellence and entertaining personality making him a marketable star who transcended national boundaries. The proximity and cultural connections between the Netherlands and Belgium facilitated knowledge transfer and competitive development, with Belgian players benefiting from established Dutch infrastructure and expertise. The success of Belgian players demonstrated that international expansion could occur through regional clusters, with neighboring countries sharing knowledge and resources to develop competitive excellence more efficiently than isolated national efforts might achieve. Germany and Austria's growing prominence in professional darts reflects the PDC's deliberate efforts to develop continental European markets through tournaments, promotional activities, and infrastructure investment. Players like Gabriel Clemens and Mensur Suljovic demonstrated that German-speaking nations could produce world-class talent given appropriate development opportunities. The passionate crowds at German tournaments demonstrated that darts could attract significant audiences in new markets when presented professionally and marketed effectively. The success of German and Austrian players provided inspiration for younger competitors and legitimized darts as serious sporting pursuit rather than novelty activity. The development of domestic tour structures and regular international competitions created pathways for talent development that had not existed in earlier eras, enabling systematic improvement rather than relying on isolated individual brilliance. Asia's engagement with professional darts, particularly from countries like Japan, China, and the Philippines, represents the sport's most ambitious expansion frontier and potentially its greatest growth opportunity. The emergence of talented Asian players competing successfully in PDC events demonstrates that darting excellence transcends cultural and geographical boundaries. The commercial potential of Asian markets, with their enormous populations and growing middle classes seeking entertainment options, makes the region crucial for professional darts' long-term growth and financial viability. Yet cultural differences in sporting preferences and entertainment consumption patterns create challenges for darts' Asian expansion, requiring careful adaptation of presentation formats and marketing approaches to resonate with local audiences. The success of individual Asian players provides inspiration and validates darts as globally relevant sport, though systematic development of elite talent across the region will require sustained organizational commitment and infrastructure investment. North America's relationship with professional darts remains complex and somewhat unfulfilled, as the sport has achieved modest success without fully capitalizing on the region's enormous commercial potential. Players like John Part and Jeff Smith demonstrated that North Americans could compete successfully at the highest levels, though the sport has struggled to develop sustained mainstream appeal in the United States and Canada. The cultural differences between British pub culture and North American sporting preferences create challenges for darts positioning and marketing, while competition from established major sports makes capturing audience attention and media coverage difficult. The PDC's periodic efforts to stage major tournaments in North America reflect recognition of the region's importance, though results have been mixed regarding both competitive success and commercial viability. The development of domestic tour structures and regular international competitions has improved talent development pathways. The emergence of exceptionally talented young players in modern professional darts represents one of the sport's most significant recent developments, as a new generation of competitors has arrived possessing technical abilities and mental maturity that would have been extraordinary in earlier eras. The youth movement reflects improved development pathways, enhanced training methods, earlier specialization, and the inspiration provided by successful role models who demonstrate that championship glory can be achieved at young ages. Understanding this generational shift provides insight into how professional darts is evolving, what factors enable or constrain early career success, and how the sport's competitive landscape will be shaped by players who develop their games within modern infrastructure and expectations. The tension between youthful brilliance and accumulated experience creates fascinating dynamics, as established champions must adapt to challengers who show no fear of established reputations and bring fresh approaches that can disrupt conventional tactical and psychological patterns. Michael van Gerwen's emergence as a teenage prodigy in the mid-2000s provided an early template for the modern youth movement, as Mighty Mike demonstrated that exceptional young players could compete successfully against experienced champions. Van Gerwen's combination of devastating scoring power and fearless approach made him dangerous from his earliest professional appearances, his youth providing psychological advantages as he showed no intimidation facing established stars. The manner of Van Gerwen's development from promising teenager into dominant world champion demonstrated what was possible through combination of natural talent, dedicated practice, and mental strength. His success inspired younger players to believe that age need not be barrier to championship success, that technical ability and competitive fire could overcome any experiential disadvantages. Van Gerwen's trajectory from teenage sensation to sustained excellence established patterns that subsequent young champions would follow, demonstrating that early success could be sustained rather than representing isolated achievement followed by disappointing decline. The PDC's development tour system has proven crucial for nurturing young talent and providing competitive pathways that did not exist in earlier eras. The structured progression from youth competitions through development tours and eventually to the main professional circuit creates a systematic approach to talent development that maximizes young players' potential. The exposure to competitive pressure in age-appropriate environments allows developing players to build mental resilience and championship temperament before facing the sport's absolute elite. The development system identifies talented young players early and provides coaching, competitive opportunities, and performance support that accelerates improvement beyond what informal developmental pathways could achieve. The success of graduates from development tours demonstrates that systematic talent development can enhance natural abilities and create champions more efficiently than relying on self-directed individual development. Luke Littler's remarkable emergence as a 17-year-old World Championship finalist represents perhaps the most dramatic example of the youth movement's impact, as the Nuke demonstrated technical abilities and composure that seemed to defy his age and limited experience. Littler's scoring power proved genuinely exceptional, his capacity to hit heavy numbers consistently rivaling the sport's absolute elite despite his youth. His finishing, while occasionally erratic due to developing technique and pressure management, showed flashes of brilliance suggesting enormous future potential. The contrast between Littler's age and his technical abilities created unprecedented mainstream media attention, introducing professional darts to audiences who had never previously engaged with the sport. His performances demonstrated that age barriers in professional darts had effectively collapsed, that teenagers could compete successfully at World Championship level when possessing exceptional talent and receiving appropriate developmental support. The psychological dynamics of youth versus experience create fascinating tactical and mental challenges for both young players and established champions. Young competitors often benefit from fearlessness born of having nothing to lose, their lack of historical disappointments allowing them to play with freedom that experienced players sometimes struggle to maintain. Yet youth can also bring vulnerability to pressure and inexperience managing the mental demands of championship contention, creating situations where technical ability proves insufficient without accumulated wisdom about handling adversity. Established champions must adapt their approaches when facing fearless young opponents, as traditional intimidation tactics prove ineffective against players who show no respect for reputation or achievement. The tension between youthful brilliance and accumulated experience creates compelling narratives that engage audiences emotionally rather than just appreciating technical excellence. The early specialization of talented young players represents both opportunity and potential concern, as intensive focus on darts development from young ages can accelerate technical improvement while potentially creating burnout risks or limiting broader personal development. Players who dedicate their teenage years entirely to darting excellence may achieve championship success earlier than previous generations, yet might also face challenges maintaining motivation and passion over extended professional careers. The balance between maximizing young talent and ensuring sustainable long-term development requires careful management from players, families, and supporting organizations. The success stories of players who specialized early and sustained excellence provide validation for intensive development approaches, while cautionary examples of promising youngsters who burned out or failed to fulfill early potential demonstrate inherent risks. The generational shift in professional darts extends beyond individual young players to encompass broader changes in playing styles, mental approaches, and expectations about achievement. The evolution of World Championship formats and tournament structures throughout professional darts' modern history reflects ongoing efforts to balance competitive fairness, entertainment value, television requirements, and commercial considerations. The format changes implemented over decades have fundamentally altered how championships unfold, affecting everything from match length and intensity to the psychological demands placed on competitors. Understanding these format evolutions provides insight into how professional sports adapt their competitive structures to serve multiple constituencies, the tensions between traditional approaches and commercial imperatives, and how organizational decisions about tournament design can significantly impact competitive outcomes and audience engagement. The best format changes enhance the championship experience for all stakeholders, creating compelling drama while maintaining competitive integrity and fairness that ensures deserving champions emerge through genuine excellence rather than fortunate circumstances or format quirks. The original BDO World Championship format established patterns that would influence professional darts for decades, with the tournament structure emphasizing gradual progression from shorter early round matches to extended finals that could exceed 7 hours of play. The format's deliberate pacing allowed players to build form gradually while managing the physical and mental demands of extended competition. The increasing match lengths as the tournament progressed created natural crescendo effect, with the drama and intensity escalating toward the championship's conclusion. The format also reflected practical television considerations, with longer finals providing extended programming that justified dedicated broadcast time and allowed for comprehensive coverage. The BDO format's success in creating compelling championship drama while maintaining competitive fairness established it as a template that subsequent organizations would reference when developing their own tournament structures. The PDC's format innovations reflected the organization's willingness to experiment with tournament structure to enhance entertainment value and television appeal. The introduction of sudden death legs in the early PDC era created additional drama during closely contested matches, though the format was eventually abandoned due to concerns about fairness and the somewhat arbitrary nature of single-leg deciders. The gradual expansion of the PDC World Championship to accommodate more players and generate additional television content demonstrated the organization's commercial sophistication and recognition that sustained growth required maximizing revenue opportunities. The careful calibration of match lengths to balance entertainment value against player welfare concerns showed attention to multiple stakeholder interests rather than pursuing commercial goals without regard for competitive integrity. The seeding system's evolution has significantly impacted how world championships unfold, with the PDC's adoption of merit-based seeding creating more predictable early-round pairings that protect top players from meeting prematurely. The seeding system reflects professional sports' general trend toward rewarding sustained excellence over extended periods rather than treating each tournament as a completely independent event. The protection of top seeds creates more predictable progression through early rounds, while theoretically ensuring that the best players meet in later stages when matches receive maximum attention. Yet seeding also creates potential for predictable tournaments where upsets become less common and David versus Goliath narratives occur less frequently. The balance between protecting competitive quality and maintaining upset potential represents ongoing tension that format designers must navigate carefully. The introduction of multiple sessions per day during later championship rounds reflects television scheduling requirements and commercial imperatives, though the format change also creates additional physical and mental demands on players. The compressed scheduling means that successful players must manage recovery and preparation within extremely limited timeframes, adding endurance and resilience to the list of qualities required for championship success. The multiple-session format favors younger players with superior physical conditioning and recovery capacity, potentially disadvantaging older competitors whose technical abilities remain intact but whose bodies require longer recovery periods. The format change demonstrates how commercial and television considerations can fundamentally alter competitive dynamics, privileging certain player attributes while devaluing others regardless of whether these shifts align with pure sporting merit considerations. The leg and set structure employed in world championships creates unique strategic and psychological dynamics that distinguish darts from many other sports. The nested structure, where individual legs combine into sets and multiple sets determine match outcomes, means that momentum can shift multiple times during extended encounters. Players must manage the psychological challenge of losing individual legs or sets without allowing disappointment to compound into sustained performance decline. The structure rewards mental resilience and ability to reset psychologically after setbacks, qualities that separate champions from talented players who struggle to maintain composure during adversity. The format also creates opportunities for dramatic comebacks, as players can recover from substantial deficits if they maintain belief and continue producing quality darts. The set structure's impact on championship outcomes remains debated, with some arguing it adds strategic depth while others suggest it introduces randomness that can disadvantage superior players experiencing temporary form lapses. The qualifying system's evolution has dramatically expanded participation opportunities while also creating complex pathways that require navigation for players seeking World Championship spots. The PDC's Order of Merit system rewards sustained excellence over extended periods through cumulative prize money rankings. The system incentivizes consistent performance across multiple tournaments throughout the year, creating transparent pathways. The evolution of World Championship venues from the intimate Lakeside Country Club to the spectacular Alexandra Palace represents one of the most visible manifestations of professional darts transformation from niche pursuit into mainstream entertainment product. The venues hosting World Championships significantly influence the championship experience for players, spectators, and television audiences, affecting everything from atmosphere and crowd dynamics to logistical complexity and commercial viability. Understanding venue evolution provides insight into how professional sports' physical settings both reflect and shape their cultural positioning, commercial success, and competitive character. The tension between intimate traditional venues and large-scale modern facilities encapsulates broader debates about authenticity versus commercialization, accessibility versus spectacle, and whether growth necessarily requires abandoning the cultural roots that originally defined the sport. The Lakeside Country Club in Frimley Green became synonymous with World Championship darts during the BDO era, the venue's intimate setting creating an atmosphere that emphasized personal connection between players and spectators. The relatively small capacity meant that audience members felt genuinely close to the action, creating an environment where crowd reactions could directly influence match dynamics and player psychology. The venue's traditional decor and club-like atmosphere reinforced darts' cultural associations with British leisure and social drinking, creating an authentic environment that resonated with the sport's working-class roots. Lakeside's limitations in terms of capacity and modern facilities were simultaneously weaknesses and strengths, constraining commercial growth while preserving an intimate character that dedicated fans valued. The venue became deeply embedded in darting mythology, representing tradition and history that transcended its modest physical characteristics. The transition from Lakeside to various temporary venues during the early PDC years reflected the organization's struggle to establish itself and the uncertainty about what type of physical setting best served professional darts needs. The experimentation with different locations and formats demonstrated the PDC's willingness to innovate and adapt rather than rigidly adhering to traditional approaches. The temporary nature of early PDC venues created logistical challenges and limited the ability to build venue-specific traditions and associations, yet also allowed flexibility to respond to changing commercial circumstances and strategic priorities. The search for an optimal permanent home reflected recognition that venue selection represented crucial strategic decision affecting the championship's long-term development and commercial viability. Alexandra Palace's emergence as the PDC World Championship's permanent home transformed the tournament experience and became central to the event's identity and commercial success. The venue's substantially larger capacity compared to Lakeside enabled dramatic expansion in ticket sales and live attendance, creating a spectacular atmosphere that television broadcasts could capture and transmit to global audiences. The iconic North London venue, with its distinctive architecture and historical significance, provided backdrop that enhanced the championship's prestige and visual appeal. Alexandra Palace's location in a major urban center improved accessibility for spectators and simplified logistics for players, media, and commercial partners. The venue's transformation from general-purpose event space into professional darts' spiritual home required substantial investment and ongoing refinement, demonstrating the PDC's commitment to creating optimal environment for championship competition. The atmosphere at Alexandra Palace represents a significant departure from Lakeside's intimate character, with packed crowds of thousands creating a raucous carnival environment that can be simultaneously exhilarating and overwhelming. The scale of the venue means that most spectators experience the championship somewhat remotely, viewing action primarily through large screens rather than direct observation of the players. Yet this trade-off between intimacy and spectacle has proven commercially successful, as the Alexandra Palace experience creates unique atmosphere that attracts spectators seeking entertainment spectacle rather than just sporting competition. The venue has become a destination in itself, with the championship experience extending beyond the actual darts to encompass social atmosphere, costume culture, and participation in collective celebration that transcends individual match outcomes. The commercial infrastructure at Alexandra Palace far exceeds what was possible at Lakeside, with extensive facilities for hospitality, sponsorship activation, media operations, and merchandise sales generating substantial revenue streams beyond basic ticket sales. The venue's capacity to accommodate corporate hospitality creates opportunities to cultivate commercial relationships and generate premium revenue that helps fund prize money and organizational operations. The physical separation between general admission areas and premium hospitality zones reflects professional sports' broader stratification, where different ticket tiers provide dramatically different experiences and access levels. The commercial sophistication enabled by Alexandra Palace's infrastructure has been crucial to the PDC's financial success and ability to offer prize funds that attract and retain elite talent. The player experience at different venues varies dramatically, with venue characteristics affecting everything from preparation routines to on-stage psychology and performance. The intimate setting at Lakeside meant players could clearly hear individual spectators' comments and reactions, creating more personal connection but also potential for distraction from hostile or overly enthusiastic fans. Alexandra Palace's scale means players face massive crowds whose collective roar can be deafening, creating sensory environment that some players find energizing while others struggle to manage. The walk-up entrances at different venues affect psychological preparation, with Alexandra Palace's dramatic player introductions creating theatrical spectacle. The evolution of television and media coverage for World Championship darts represents one of the most significant factors enabling the sport's transformation from niche entertainment into mainstream spectacle attracting global audiences. The relationship between professional darts and television has been symbiotic and crucial, with enhanced broadcast quality and coverage expanding audiences while larger viewership enabled improved production values and commercial investment that further enhanced the viewing experience. Understanding this media evolution provides insight into how professional sports adapt their presentation for different broadcast platforms, the tensions between traditional television and emerging digital media, and how coverage innovations can fundamentally alter how audiences consume and understand sporting competition. The best broadcast innovations enhance viewer engagement and understanding while preserving the authentic competitive drama that ultimately drives audience interest. The early television coverage of World Championship darts on the BBC established basic presentation templates that would influence decades of subsequent broadcasting. The relatively simple production featured minimal camera angles, basic graphics displaying scores and statistics, and commentary that emphasized explanation of rules and context for audiences potentially unfamiliar with professional darts. The BBC's coverage treated darts with a mixture of affection and condescension, acknowledging the sport's entertainment value while not quite positioning it alongside more established sporting properties. The limited commercial investment in production quality reflected darts' position as marginal programming that filled schedule gaps rather than premium content commanding significant resources. Yet even these modest early broadcasts demonstrated darts' television appeal, with a combination of accessible rules, dramatic finishes, and colorful personalities creating compelling viewing that attracted audiences beyond dedicated darting fans. The PDC's partnership with Sky Sports transformed professional darts broadcasting through substantial investment in production quality and presentation innovation. Sky's commercial incentives as a subscription broadcaster motivated creating premium viewing experiences that could attract and retain paying customers, resulting in production values that dramatically exceeded previous standards. The multiple camera angles, sophisticated graphic systems, real-time statistical analysis, and professional presentation created broadcast product that positioned darts alongside established premium sports rather than as novelty entertainment. The investment reflected Sky's recognition that professional darts possessed untapped commercial potential that could be realized through enhanced presentation and aggressive marketing. The partnership's success demonstrated that professional sports media appeal depends significantly on production quality and presentation, not just the underlying competitive excellence. The development of sophisticated graphics and statistical overlays revolutionized how television audiences could understand and engage with professional darts, transforming viewing from passive observation into information-rich experience. The real-time display of averages, checkout percentages, and scoring patterns enabled viewers to appreciate technical excellence and strategic decisions that might be invisible in raw footage. The graphics innovations helped educate casual viewers about what constituted exceptional performance, creating benchmarks against which they could evaluate players and matches. The statistical depth available through modern broadcasts appeals to analytically minded audiences while also serving storytelling functions, as commentators can reference data to support narratives about player form, momentum shifts, and competitive patterns. The graphics evolution demonstrates how broadcast innovations can enhance audience understanding and engagement rather than simply capturing and transmitting action. The commentary and presentation team's evolution has been crucial to professional darts broadcast appeal, with personalities like Sid Waddell becoming as recognizable and beloved as the players themselves. The best commentary enhances viewing experience through combination of technical expertise, storytelling ability, and entertainment value that engages audiences emotionally rather than just informing them about match progress. The distinctive styles different commentators bring create variety and personality that makes broadcasts memorable beyond specific match outcomes. The integration of player interviews, backstage features, and human interest stories adds narrative depth that transforms championships from series of isolated matches into compelling ongoing drama with characters and storylines that audiences follow across extended periods. The presentation team's contribution to professional darts appeal demonstrates that sporting broadcasts succeed through combination of multiple elements rather than just capturing on-field action. The introduction of walk-up music and theatrical player entrances represented significant presentation innovations that enhanced the broadcast spectacle while also affecting player psychology and crowd engagement. The musical choices players make reveal aspects of personality and create anticipation before matches begin, adding entertainment value beyond pure sporting competition. The elaborate entrance routines at modern championships create theatrical moments that television can capture and amplify, generating compelling footage that attracts casual viewers and creates shareable content for social media promotion. The walk-up innovations demonstrate how professional sports can borrow presentation elements from entertainment industries to enhance appeal without compromising competitive integrity. Though some traditionalists argue that excessive theatricality undermines authentic sporting character, the digital media revolution has transformed how audiences can access and consume World Championship darts, with streaming platforms, social media, and on-demand viewing creating alternatives to traditional linear television. The PDC's embrace of digital platforms reflects recognition that younger audiences increasingly consume content through mobile devices. The psychological dimensions of World Championship darts represent perhaps the most crucial yet least visible factors determining competitive outcomes. as mental strength and pressure management separate champions from talented players who consistently fall short when stakes are highest. The unique pressures facing championship competitors extend beyond normal match anxiety to encompass accumulated weight of expectation, historical disappointments, knowledge that career-defining moments are unfolding, and awareness that millions watch performances unfold in real time. Understanding these psychological complexities provides insight into why technical excellence alone proves insufficient for championship success, how mental approaches evolve through experience and dedicated training, and why some exceptionally talented players never fulfill their obvious potential while others with less natural ability achieve sustained success through superior mental strength. The mental game of championship darts involves managing multiple psychological challenges simultaneously, maintaining focus and execution while navigating the unique pressures that World Championship competition creates. The pressure of defending world championships creates psychological burdens that many champions struggle to handle effectively, as the transition from challenger to marked favorite fundamentally alters competitive dynamics and mental approaches. Defending champions face expectations of inevitable success rather than being underdogs with everything to gain and nothing to lose, creating psychological weight that can subtly compromise performance. The knowledge that every opponent will raise their game specifically to defeat the reigning champion adds additional pressure, as losing becomes doubly disappointing, representing both individual defeat and failure to successfully defend. The visible struggles many defending champions experience demonstrate that handling success can prove as challenging as achieving initial breakthrough, requiring mental adjustments and pressure management strategies that differ fundamentally from challenger mentalities. The champions who successfully defend demonstrate superior mental strength and ability to adapt psychological approaches to accommodate elevated status and expectations. The impact of historical disappointments and near misses creates psychological baggage that can prove difficult to overcome, as players carry memories of previous failures into new championship opportunities. The mental challenge of maintaining belief and confidence after repeated disappointments becomes progressively more difficult, as each near miss creates additional doubt about whether ultimate success will ever be achieved. Players like Michael Smith demonstrated that psychological barriers can be overcome through persistence and mental development, though the journey from talented player who consistently lost finals to double world champion required years of work addressing mental approaches and pressure management. The transformation from nearly man to champion often occurs suddenly rather than gradually, as players discover mental approaches allowing their technical abilities to flourish under pressure rather than being compromised by accumulated disappointment and self-doubt. The management of in-match pressure and momentum shifts requires sophisticated mental skills that extend beyond simple positive thinking or confidence, encompassing tactical awareness, emotional regulation, and ability to refocus after setbacks. Players must maintain psychological equilibrium during matches featuring dramatic momentum swings, avoiding both complacency when leading and panic when trailing. The nested structure of legs and sets means that individual defeats need not compound into sustained performance decline if players can reset psychologically and maintain belief in their abilities. Elite performers develop mental routines and self-talk patterns that help them manage pressure situations, though these approaches must be individualized to match personality and natural tendencies rather than following generic formulas. The psychological complexity of championship matches extends beyond technical execution to encompass sophisticated mental management that separates champions from talented players who wilt under sustained pressure. The role of sports psychology and mental training in modern professional darts has increased dramatically as players and coaches recognize that mental preparation deserves equivalent attention to technical practice. The systematic approach to mental skill development includes visualization techniques, pressure inoculation training, emotional regulation strategies, and development of pre-performance routines that help players access optimal psychological states. The best mental training integrates seamlessly with technical preparation rather than being treated as separate activity, recognizing that physical and mental aspects of performance are deeply interconnected. The players who embrace mental training most seriously often achieve results exceeding what their pure technical abilities might suggest, demonstrating that psychological skills can provide significant competitive advantages. The increasing sophistication of mental training approaches promises to continue improving how players manage championship pressures, though mental skills development requires sustained commitment rather than quick fixes. The unique pressures facing young players attempting championship success create both advantages and vulnerabilities, as youth can bring freedom from historical disappointment while also creating inexperience managing intense scrutiny and expectation. Luke Littler's remarkable composure during his Teenage World Championship final run demonstrated that age need not prevent effective pressure management when natural confidence combines with appropriate mental preparation. Yet youth can also bring vulnerability to pressure situations that experience helps manage, as young players lack accumulated wisdom about handling adversity and maintaining perspective during disappointing results. The balance between youthful fearlessness and experienced wisdom creates fascinating psychological dynamics, with the optimal mental approach varying based on individual personality rather than following universal patterns. The psychological dimension remains crucial. The cultural impact and enduring legacy of World Championship darts extends far beyond pure sporting achievement to encompass broader questions about class, entertainment, national identity, and how sporting events can become cultural phenomena transcending their original contexts. The transformation of professional darts from working-class pub game into globally televised entertainment spectacle represents a remarkable journey that reflects broader social and cultural changes in how we consume sports and entertainment. Understanding this legacy and cultural impact provides insight into how sporting events acquire significance beyond immediate competitive outcomes, the relationship between sports and social identity, and how professional athletics can evolve while maintaining connections to cultural roots. The World Championship's cultural resonance derives from a combination of sporting excellence, compelling human drama, accessible rules that enable broad participation, and distinctive character that distinguishes darts from more conventional sporting properties. The social class dimensions of professional darts remain significant despite the sport's commercial evolution and mainstream acceptance, with championship events retaining cultural associations with working-class leisure and pub culture that shape how different audiences perceive and engage with the sport. The preservation of informal atmosphere and accessible entertainment value distinguishes darts from more elite sporting events, creating a welcoming environment that appeals to audiences who might feel excluded by the corporate formality of other professional sports. Yet the sport's working-class associations also create potential barriers to broader mainstream acceptance, as some audiences perceive darts as lacking the cultural prestige associated with more established sporting properties. The tension between preserving authentic character rooted in working-class culture and pursuing mainstream acceptance that might require moderating distinctive elements creates ongoing debates about professional darts identity and optimal development path. The role of individual champions in shaping professional darts' cultural legacy cannot be overstated, as iconic players like Phil Taylor, Raymond van Barneveld, and Michael van Gerwen became transcendent figures whose impact extended far beyond their competitive achievements. These champions provided compelling narratives about dedication, excellence, and human potential that resonated with audiences emotionally rather than just appreciating technical mastery. Their distinctive personalities and approaches created diverse role models that different audiences could identify with and admire, expanding the sport's appeal beyond single demographic or cultural group. The champions' willingness to engage with fans and media, sharing their journeys and making themselves accessible, helped humanize professional darts and create personal connections that enhanced audience investment. The cultural impact of great champions endures long after their competitive careers conclude, as their achievements and personalities continue shaping how subsequent generations understand and appreciate professional darts. The international expansion of World Championship darts has created fascinating cross-cultural dynamics, as the sport's British origins interact with diverse international traditions and sporting cultures. The Dutch dominance in recent decades demonstrates that darting excellence can develop within different cultural contexts while maintaining essential competitive character. The emergence of champions from various nations has enhanced the sport's global appeal while also creating interesting tensions between preserving British cultural traditions and adapting to become genuinely international property. The World Championships' evolution from primarily British event into global sporting spectacle reflects broader globalization patterns, though darts has managed international expansion while retaining more distinctive cultural character than many sports that became homogenized through globalization processes. The entertainment value and spectacle of modern World Championships has transformed how audiences consume and engage with professional darts, with the event becoming as much social celebration as pure sporting competition. The costume culture, chanting traditions, and carnival atmosphere create unique championship experience that distinguishes darts from more conventional sporting events. The accessibility of championship attendance and the welcoming environment appeal to diverse audiences seeking entertainment experiences rather than just witnessing athletic excellence. Yet the entertainment emphasis also creates potential tensions with sporting integrity, as some observers worry that excessive theatricality might undermine authentic competitive character. The balance between entertainment spectacle and genuine sporting competition remains ongoing negotiation, though professional darts has generally managed to enhance entertainment value while preserving competitive credibility that ultimately justifies audience interest. The media representation of professional darts has evolved significantly from early coverage that treated the sport with condescension or bemusement to contemporary presentations that emphasize technical excellence and genuine athletic achievement. The shift reflects both improved production quality and changing cultural attitudes about what constitutes legitimate sporting activity deserving serious coverage. The mainstream media attention generated by breakthrough moments like Fallon Sherrock's historic victories demonstrates that professional darts can transcend niche status to become genuine cultural phenomenon, attracting interest from audiences far beyond dedicated sporting fans. The media evolution has been crucial to professional darts' cultural legitimization, as serious coverage and analytical depth replaced simplistic narratives emphasizing only spectacle and unusual characters. The inspirational impact of World Championship darts on recreational and amateur players cannot be understated, as the championship provides aspirational goal and demonstration of what dedicated practice and development can achieve. The accessibility of basic participation contrasts with sports requiring expensive equipment, creating low barriers. The upset victories and Cinderella stories that punctuate World Championship history represent some of professional darts' most compelling narratives, demonstrating that determination, courage, and momentary brilliance can overcome superior credentials and established reputations. These unexpected triumphs provide hope to underdogs and remind favorites that complacency invites disaster, creating dramatic tension that extends beyond pure technical excellence. The greatest upsets combine sporting drama with human interest, featuring players who exceed expectations through combination of exceptional performance and psychological freedom that comes from having nothing to lose. Understanding these iconic upsets provides insight into what makes sporting competition compelling beyond predictable outcomes, how mental factors can neutralize technical advantages, and why championship tournaments retain capacity to surprise even most experienced observers. Rob Cross's 2018 World Championship victory represents perhaps professional darts' greatest upset, as the player making his championship debut comprehensively defeated Michael van Gerwen in the final to claim an unlikely title. Cross entered the tournament with minimal expectations, his recent switch to professional darts meaning few observers considered him a serious championship contender. Yet Voltage's combination of heavy scoring and clinical finishing proved devastating throughout the tournament. His fearless approach and psychological freedom overwhelming more credentialed opponents. The final against Van Gerwen showcased Cross operating at peak level while Mighty Mike appeared unsettled by his opponent's refusal to be intimidated. Cross's triumph demonstrated that talent combined with perfect timing and mental freedom can produce championship success even against dominant favorites. The victory transformed Cross from unknown quantity into world champion overnight, creating one of darting's great Cinderella stories. Ted Hankey's 2000 BDO World Championship victory at age 31 represented an unexpected triumph for a player who had shown promise but never quite fulfilled potential. The Count's flamboyant entrance routine and theatrical celebrations masked serious player capable of producing exceptional darts under pressure. Hankey's combination of solid scoring and nerveless finishing proved sufficient to navigate a field featuring several more highly rated players. His victory demonstrated that championship tournaments can produce unexpected winners when favorites underperform and underdogs seize opportunities with both hands. Hankey's triumph provided inspiration for players who had struggled to achieve breakthrough success, proving that perseverance and belief could eventually produce rewards even after years of disappointment. Keith Deller's 1983 BDO World Championship victory at age 23 shocked the darting world, as the young player defeated Eric Bristow in a final that nobody predicted. Deller's remarkable composure and brilliant finishing under ultimate pressure demonstrated championship temperament that belied his age and relative inexperience. The victory proved particularly stunning given Bristow's dominance of professional darts during this era, his status as overwhelming favorite making Deller's triumph even more remarkable. The upset demonstrated that youth and fearlessness could overcome experience and superior credentials when combined with exceptional performance on the day. Deller's championship remains one of darting's most unlikely triumphs, a reminder that favorites must perform on the day rather than assuming reputation alone ensures victory. Dennis Priestley's 1991 BDO World Championship victory represented significant upset, as the journeyman professional defeated heavily favored Eric Bristow in the final. Priestley had shown solid form throughout his career without ever quite threatening championship glory, making his triumph unexpected even to optimistic supporters. Yet the menace produced the performance of his life when it mattered most, combining reliable scoring with clinical finishing to overwhelm Bristow. The victory demonstrated that sustained excellence over extended career could eventually produce championship success even for players who lacked the natural brilliance of more gifted contemporaries. Priestley's triumph provided hope for dedicated professionals who worked tirelessly without achieving recognition, proving that perseverance and sound fundamentals could ultimately prevail. Kjell Claessen's 2006 BDO World Championship victory at age 21 represented remarkable achievement for young player defeating established stars. Claessen's smooth throwing action and composed demeanor suggested maturity beyond his years, though few predicted championship success so early in his career. His dominant performances throughout the tournament announced a rival of significant talent, his combination of technical excellence and mental strength overwhelming more experienced opponents. The victory demonstrated that age barriers in professional darts had effectively collapsed, that teenagers and early 20s players could compete successfully at highest level when possessing appropriate combination of talent and mental approach. Claessen's championship success validated the development systems producing young elite players and demonstrated that early specialization could accelerate timeline to championship glory. Scott Waite's 2010 BDO World Championship victory represented unlikely triumph for player who had shown promise without ever quite threatening title glory. Scotty 2 Hottie's combination of solid fundamentals and reliable finishing proved sufficient to navigate field featuring several more highly credentialed players. His victory demonstrated that BDO championships during this era could produce unexpected winners as competitive depth compressed and favorites struggled with pressure. The triumph provided personal satisfaction and vindication for a player who had dedicated years to developing his game despite limited recognition and financial rewards. Wright's championship success demonstrated that dedication and persistence could eventually produce results even within diminished competitive environments. The enduring appeal of upset victories demonstrates that audiences value unpredictability and underdog triumphs in championship competition. The qualifying tournaments and pathways enabling players to reach world championships represent crucial infrastructure determining who receives opportunities to compete for ultimate glory and how meritocratic access to the sport's pinnacle events truly is. The evolution of qualifying systems reflects ongoing tension between rewarding sustained excellence, providing opportunities for emerging talent, maintaining competitive quality, and creating compelling narratives that enhance commercial appeal. Understanding qualifying pathways provides insight into how professional sports balance multiple objectives through tournament structure, the challenges facing players attempting to navigate complex qualification criteria, and how organizational decisions about access can significantly affect competitive dynamics and championship outcomes. The best qualifying systems create transparent pathways based primarily on merit while maintaining flexibility to accommodate exceptional circumstances and ensuring that the World Championship field represents the sport's genuine elite. The PDC's Order of Merit system represents the primary qualifying pathway for World Championship participation, rewarding sustained excellence over extended periods through cumulative prize money rankings. The system incentivizes consistent performance across multiple tournaments throughout the year, preventing single exceptional results from outweighing broader body of work. The transparency of Order of Merit calculations enables players to track their championship qualification status and understand precisely what results they need to secure automatic entry. The system's emphasis on prize money earned rather than arbitrary ranking points reflects the PDC's commercial orientation and recognition that financial performance correlates strongly with competitive excellence. Yet the Order of Merit also creates potential concerns about whether weighting toward prize money disadvantages talented players with limited resources to compete in expensive international events, potentially creating barriers for competitors from less affluent backgrounds or geographical regions with limited local tournament opportunities. The PDC qualifying school represents supplementary pathway providing opportunities for players outside automatic qualification positions, creating high-pressure tournaments where aspiring professionals compete for limited tour cards and world championship spots. The qualifying school's intensity and pressure create unique psychological challenges, as players recognize that single poor performance can end championship dreams and significantly impact career trajectories. The democratic access that qualifying school provides contrasts with more exclusive historical systems, enabling talented players from diverse backgrounds to earn championship opportunities purely through competitive performance. Yet the format's compressed timeline and elimination structure mean that unfortunate draws or temporary form lapses can eliminate players whose overall abilities might warrant championship inclusion, raising questions about whether the system truly identifies the most deserving qualifiers or simply those who perform best during specific high-pressure weekends. The BDO's historical qualifying system emphasized regional and national championships as pathways to world championship participation, creating hierarchical structure that required players to succeed at multiple levels before reaching Lakeside. The system reinforced grassroots darting infrastructure by ensuring that regional competitions mattered for players with championship ambitions, creating incentives for participation in local tournaments that might otherwise struggle for relevance. Yet the BDO system also created potential barriers for talented players from regions lacking robust competitive infrastructure, with geographical accidents of birth potentially affecting championship access more than pure ability. The emphasis on regional qualification meant that the BDO World Championship field sometimes included players who had dominated weak regional competitions without facing top-level opposition, creating quality concerns that ultimately contributed to perceptions that the championship's competitive depth was declining. The international qualifying events and regional championships provide crucial pathways for players from emerging darting nations to access world championship opportunities, creating global reach that would be impossible through purely merit-based systems emphasizing accumulated prize money. The reserved spots for regional champions ensure geographical diversity in championship fields, creating compelling international narratives and inspiring players from countries where professional darts infrastructure remains limited. Yet the reserved spots also create potential quality concerns, as regional champions from emerging nations may lack the competitive experience and ability to seriously contend against elite players from traditional darting powers. The balance between promoting international growth through guaranteed access and maintaining championship competitive quality represents ongoing tension that qualifying systems must navigate carefully. The Women's Series and dedicated female qualifying pathways reflect ongoing debates about optimal competitive structures for female players, with arguments for separate qualification systems competing against preferences for fully integrated merit-based access. The dedicated female pathways ensure that talented women receive championship opportunities that might prove difficult to secure through direct competition against male players for limited spots. Yet separate qualifying systems also implicitly accept premise that female players cannot compete equally with male counterparts, potentially undermining arguments for gender equality in professional darts. The success of players like Fallon Sherrock in mixed-gender PDC events demonstrates that top female players can compete successfully when given opportunities, raising questions about whether separate qualifying pathways remain necessary or whether they perpetuate barriers that direct integration might overcome. The wildcards and sponsor invitations represent discretionary qualifying pathways allowing organizers to include players who might enhance championship appeal despite not meeting standard criteria. The evolution of equipment and technology in professional darts represents a fascinating intersection of tradition and innovation, as the sport has embraced technological advances that enhance performance and competitive fairness while maintaining essential character rooted in relatively simple implements. The progression from basic pub game equipment to sophisticated engineered products designed for elite competition demonstrates how professional sports continuously refine their tools even when fundamental concepts remain unchanged. Understanding equipment evolution provides insight into how technological advances affect competitive dynamics, the relationship between equipment quality and performance outcomes, and the ongoing tension between innovation that enhances the sport and changes that might fundamentally alter its character. The best equipment innovations improve performance consistency and competitive fairness while preserving the essential skill requirements that make professional darts compelling to watch and challenging to master. The evolution of dart design from simple brass and wood constructions to sophisticated tungsten alloys represents perhaps the most significant equipment advance in professional darts history. The introduction of tungsten darts in the 1970s revolutionized the sport by enabling much thinner barrels that allowed tighter grouping when targeting specific segments. The increased density of tungsten compared to brass meant that darts could maintain necessary weight while occupying substantially less space, reducing deflections and enabling the consistent high scoring that modern professional darts demands. The tungsten revolution democratized elite performance to some degree, as even recreational players could access equipment that wouldn't fundamentally limit their potential, though the skill requirements for consistently excellent dart throwing remained extraordinarily demanding regardless of equipment quality. The continuing refinement of tungsten dart design reflects ongoing pursuit of optimal weight distributions, grip patterns, and aerodynamic properties that can provide marginal performance advantages at the elite level. The dartboard evolution from traditional elm and paper constructions to modern sisal fiber boards represents crucial advance that enhanced durability, reduced bounce-outs, and improved scoring consistency. The sisal fiber board's self-healing properties meant that holes created by dart impacts would close partially, extending board life dramatically compared to paper boards that deteriorated rapidly under intensive use. The reduced bounce-out rates resulting from Sisel's more forgiving surface meant that technically sound throws were more reliably rewarded, reducing the role of chance in competitive outcomes. The standardization of board specifications and manufacturing quality ensured that professional competitions occurred under consistent conditions, eliminating equipment variability as a factor affecting results. The continuing refinement of board construction techniques and materials represents ongoing pursuit of optimal playing surfaces that balance durability, fairness, and performance consistency. The flight and shaft evolution demonstrates how seemingly minor equipment components can significantly affect dart stability, consistency, and performance characteristics. The transition from traditional feather flights to molded plastic and modern polymer materials created products combining durability with aerodynamic efficiency that natural materials struggled to match. The introduction of specialized shaft designs incorporating springs, locks, and variable lengths enabled players to fine-tune dart flight characteristics to match individual throwing styles and preferences. The explosion of available flight and shaft combinations created unprecedented customization opportunities, though the variety also created potential for endless tinkering that might distract from fundamental technique development. The optimal approach involves finding equipment combinations that enhance natural throwing style rather than forcing technique adaptations to accommodate equipment characteristics. The oak and throwing line specifications represent crucial equipment standards that ensure competitive fairness by maintaining consistent throwing distances across all professional competitions. The precise distance regulation and enforcement prevents any competitive advantages resulting from variable throwing positions, ensuring that results reflect player abilities rather than equipment or setup variations. The oak design evolution from simple raised bars to sophisticated lighting and sensors reflects ongoing efforts to enhance accuracy while maintaining traditional character. The standardization of oak specifications across different organizations and competitions ensures that players develop techniques optimized for universal standards rather than needing to adapt to variable conditions. The continuing refinement of oak design represents pursuit of optimal balance between tradition and technological enhancement that could improve competitive fairness. The scoring systems and electronic aids represent technological innovations that have enhanced competitive fairness and viewer engagement, while creating debates about appropriate technology integration in professional darts. The electronic scoreboards and automatic calculation systems have eliminated arithmetic errors and speeded up match flow, allowing players to focus entirely on throwing rather than mental calculation. The camera systems and electronic verification used in some competitions provide definitive resolution of close calls and disputed scores, though traditional professional darts still relies primarily on human callers whose judgment determines official scores. The potential future integration of fully automated scoring systems raises questions about whether eliminating human elements would enhance fairness or diminish essential character that human involvement provides. The balance between technological capability and traditional practice represents ongoing negotiation about how much automation serves the sport and where human judgment should retain primacy. The practice and training equipment evolution demonstrates how technology can enhance player development through immediate feedback and detailed performance analysis. The distinctive crowd culture and fan engagement characterizing modern World Championship darts represents one of the sport's most recognizable features, creating an atmosphere that distinguishes darting events from more conventional sporting occasions. The evolution from modest pub game audiences to massive crowds creating carnival atmospheres at venues like Alexandra Palace demonstrates how fan culture can become integral to sporting identity and commercial appeal. Understanding crowd dynamics and fan engagement provides insight into what makes professional darts unique as entertainment spectacle. The relationship between audience participation and sporting authenticity, and how fan culture can enhance or potentially compromise competitive integrity. The best fan engagement creates energy and atmosphere that elevates championship experience for all participants while maintaining respect for competitive fairness and player welfare that ensures sport remains primary focus rather than being overwhelmed by entertainment spectacle. The costume culture that emerged at modern darting events represents perhaps the most visually distinctive element of fan engagement, as spectators arrive in elaborate outfits ranging from clever wordplay-based costumes to coordinated group themes. The costume tradition began organically as fans sought ways to enhance their championship experience and attract television attention, gradually evolving into expected element of major darting events. The creativity and effort that fans invest in costume creation demonstrates genuine engagement and affection for the sport, transforming championship attendance from passive observation into active participation. The costume culture also creates compelling television visuals that attract casual viewers and generate social media attention extending far beyond dedicated darting fans. Yet concerns exist about whether costume emphasis might trivialize the sport or create environments where entertainment spectacle overshadows athletic competition, potentially undermining efforts to establish professional darts as serious sporting property deserving mainstream respect. The chanting and singing traditions developed by darting crowds create unique auditory environments that can energize players or prove distracting depending on content and context. The creative chants referencing players' nicknames, careers, or personal characteristics demonstrate fan knowledge and engagement beyond superficial interest. The spontaneous singing of popular songs creates communal experiences that bind audiences together and generate atmosphere that television broadcasts can capture and transmit to home viewers. Yet the chanting culture also creates potential concerns when content becomes offensive, targeting players with abuse disguised as banter, or creating environments that might feel hostile or unwelcoming to diverse audiences. The challenge involves maintaining the passionate engagement that makes darting crowds distinctive while ensuring that atmosphere remains celebratory rather than descending into behavior that drives away potential fans or creates uncomfortable environments for players and spectators. The alcohol culture at darting events represents a complex element that contributes to relaxed atmosphere while creating potential concerns about excessive consumption and associated behavioral problems. The sports cultural associations with pub leisure mean that alcohol availability and consumption represent authentic elements rather than artificial additions, contributing to the distinctive character that distinguishes darts from more corporate sporting events. The relaxed approach to alcohol sales creates environments where spectators feel comfortable and able to enjoy extended championship sessions in convivial atmosphere. Yet excessive consumption can create disruptive behavior, offensive language, and environments that might feel threatening to families or individuals seeking primarily to watch excellent darts. The balance between maintaining adult-oriented atmosphere and ensuring that environments remain welcoming to diverse audiences represents an ongoing challenge that organizers must navigate carefully. The player walk-up and entrance traditions create theatrical moments that blend sporting competition with entertainment spectacle, as elaborate introductions and music selections build anticipation before matches commence. The personal music choices that players make reveal aspects of personality and create emotional connections with audiences, transforming anonymous competitors into characters that fans can identify with and support. The choreographed lighting, pyrotechnics, and video presentations accompanying player entrances create production values that position professional darts alongside major entertainment properties rather than modest sporting events. Yet the theatrical emphasis also creates potential concerns about whether entertainment spectacle undermines authentic sporting character, potentially attracting audiences interested primarily in show rather than competitive excellence. The walk-up traditions represent successful innovation that enhances championship appeal without compromising actual competition, demonstrating how professional sports can borrow from entertainment industries while maintaining sporting integrity. The social media integration and digital fan engagement represent increasingly important elements of modern championship experience, as audiences expect opportunities to participate and interact beyond simply attending or watching broadcasts. The real-time social media commentary creates parallel conversations where fans share reactions, debate controversial moments, and build communities around shared interests. The championship organizers' social media presence provides behind-the-scenes access, player interviews, and interactive content that extends engagement beyond actual match action. The digital engagement creates opportunities for fans unable to attend physically to participate in championship experience, democratizing access that geographical or financial constraints might otherwise limit. Yet the social media emphasis also creates potential distractions from in-person attendance experience and risks fragmenting audience attention across multiple platforms rather than maintaining focus on actual competitive drama. Fan engagement must enhance sporting excellence. The evolution of training methods and preparation approaches for World Championship darts demonstrates how professional sports continuously refine their development processes as understanding improves and competitive standards rise. The progression from largely intuitive traditional practice to sophisticated scientific training programs reflects broader professionalization trends affecting all elite sports. Understanding modern training approaches provides insight into what separates championship-level performers from talented players who never quite reach the pinnacle, how preparation methods have evolved alongside competitive standards, and what combination of physical, mental, and technical development produces optimal performance. The best training programs integrate multiple dimensions of preparation into cohesive systems that develop complete athletes rather than just improving isolated technical skills, recognizing that championship success requires excelling across multiple domains simultaneously. The traditional practice methods emphasized volume and repetition, with players throwing thousands of darts developing muscle memory and technical consistency through sheer accumulated experience. The approach worked remarkably well for generations of champions, as dedicated practice over extended periods naturally developed the consistency required for elite performance. Yet traditional methods lacked systematic approaches to identifying and correcting technical flaws, relied heavily on individual feel and judgment rather than objective measurement, and didn't integrate scientific understanding about motor learning and skill acquisition that could potentially accelerate improvement. The champions who emerged through traditional training demonstrated that natural talent combined with obsessive dedication could produce extraordinary results, though questions remained about whether more sophisticated approaches might enable even better outcomes or allow players with less natural ability to reach higher levels through optimized training. The biomechanical analysis and video study represent significant advance, enabling players to understand their throwing mechanics in detail and make targeted adjustments that intuitive feel alone might miss. The high-speed video capture allowing frame-by-frame analysis reveals subtle technical variations that affect consistency, enabling precise diagnosis of mechanical issues compromising performance. The comparison of individual mechanics against optimal models derived from elite performers provides reference standards that guide technique development and refinement. Yet biomechanical analysis must be applied carefully, as excessive focus on mechanical perfection can create tension and overthinking that undermines the natural fluidity required for consistent excellent throwing. The optimal approach involves using technical analysis to identify and address major flaws while avoiding paralysis through over-analysis that prevents players from developing natural throwing rhythms that work for their individual physiology and psychology. The physical conditioning and fitness training represents an increasingly important element of elite preparation, as modern championships' compressed schedules and extended matches create substantial physical demands. The cardiovascular conditioning enables players to maintain focus and execution quality during matches extending many hours, preventing fatigue from compromising technique and decision-making during crucial late stages. The strength training and injury prevention work helps players manage the repetitive stress that thousands of practice throws and competitive matches impose on shoulders, elbows, and backs. The flexibility and mobility work maintains range of motion and prevents compensatory movement patterns that might develop as bodies adapt to repetitive throwing motions. Yet the physical preparation must be balanced carefully against the risk of overtraining or developing excessive muscle mass that might compromise the fine motor control required for consistent, accurate throwing. The optimal physical conditioning enhances durability and stamina without interfering with the technical precision that ultimately determines competitive success. The mental training and sports psychology integration represents perhaps the most significant recent development in championship preparation, as elite players recognize that technical ability alone proves insufficient without sophisticated mental approaches managing pressure and optimizing performance states. The visualization and mental rehearsal techniques enable players to prepare for championship situations in controlled environments, developing mental responses and routines that transfer to actual competition. The pressure inoculation training involving deliberate practice under simulated high-stakes conditions helps players develop comfort and effectiveness when facing real championship pressure. The mindfulness and meditation practices help players develop present moment focus and emotional regulation that prevents past disappointments or future concerns from interfering with immediate performance demands. The cognitive behavioral approaches help players identify and modify thought patterns that create anxiety or undermine confidence, replacing them with more productive mental frameworks that enhance rather than compromise performance. The nutrition and recovery optimization demonstrates increasing sophistication in how elite players manage their bodies and energy systems, recognizing that consistent high performance requires systematic approaches to fueling and regeneration. The nutritional strategies emphasizing stable blood sugar, adequate hydration, and optimal micronutrient intake help maintain cognitive function and physical capacity during extended championship periods. The sleep optimization and recovery protocols ensure that players can regenerate between matches, preventing accumulated fatigue from compromising later performances. The substance use policies and anti-doping compliance ensure that any performance optimization occurs through legitimate training and preparation rather than prohibited substances providing unfair advantages. Yet the nutrition and recovery emphasis must avoid becoming obsessive or creating additional stress, as excessive focus on optimization can paradoxically create anxiety undermining performance. The commentators and broadcast personalities who have shaped World Championship darts represent crucial but sometimes underappreciated contributors to the sport's evolution and popular appeal. The distinctive voices, catchphrases, and storytelling approaches that great commentators bring transform viewing experiences from simple observation of technical excellence into rich narratives filled with drama, humor, and emotional resonance. Understanding the role of broadcast personalities provides insight into how sporting presentation shapes audience engagement, the relationship between athletic performance and media interpretation, and how effective commentary can enhance rather than distract from competitive action. The best commentators combine technical expertise with entertainment value, educating audiences while keeping them engaged, and creating memorable moments that endure beyond specific match outcomes. Sid Waddell stands as perhaps the most influential and beloved voice in professional darts history, his distinctive Geordie accent and erudite metaphors becoming synonymous with the sport's identity and character. Waddell's background in documentary production and his genuine passion for darts enabled him to elevate commentary beyond simple score recitation into literary storytelling that positioned players as heroes in epic narratives. His famous phrases and elaborate metaphors comparing dart players to historical figures and mythological characters created a linguistic legacy that continues influencing how darts is discussed and appreciated. Waddell understood that effective commentary requires balancing technical explanation with entertainment value. educating casual viewers while engaging dedicated fans through deeper insights and cultural references. His emotional investment in matches was genuine rather than manufactured, creating authentic enthusiasm that viewers could feel and share. Waddell's contribution to professional darts extended far beyond simply describing action, as his commentary style became integral to the sport's identity and helped attract audiences who might otherwise have dismissed darts as unworthy of serious attention. John Gwynne's partnership with Sid Waddell created the most recognizable and effective commentary pairing in darting history, their contrasting styles complementing each other perfectly to create comprehensive coverage serving multiple audience needs simultaneously. Gwynne's role as technical expert and statistician provided factual grounding that balanced Waddell's flights of poetic fancy, ensuring that broadcasts remained informative even when becoming entertainingly elaborate. His calm, measured delivery created stability that allowed Waddell's exuberance to shine without overwhelming viewers, demonstrating how effective broadcast pairings require complementary rather than identical approaches. Gwynne's deep knowledge of darting history and statistics enabled contextual commentary that helped audiences understand significance of performances and achievements within broader historical narratives. His contribution demonstrated that effective color commentary requires not just expertise but also understanding of how to deliver information in ways that enhance rather than interrupt viewing experience. Tony Green's distinctive Scottish burr and warm personality made him a beloved figure in darting broadcasting, his role as master of ceremonies and occasional commentator contributing significantly to championship atmosphere and viewer engagement. Green's ability to connect with players and audiences created a welcoming environment that reinforced dart's accessible character and working-class roots. His genuine affection for the sport and its participants came through in every broadcast, creating authenticity that manufactured enthusiasm could never replicate. Green's longevity in darting broadcasting provided continuity across generations, his familiar presence connecting contemporary championships with historical tournaments and creating sense of tradition and institutional memory. His contribution extended beyond specific technical commentary to encompass broader role as ambassador and friendly face representing professional darts to diverse audiences. Russ Bray's iconic calls of 180 and distinctive referee voice became as recognizable as any player, his authoritative presence maintaining order while contributing to championship spectacle. Bray's clear enunciation and consistent calling style ensured that all participants and viewers could follow match progress without confusion, demonstrating how referees contribute to viewer experience beyond just administering rules. His theatrical delivery of scores and maximums enhanced dramatic moments without becoming cartoonish or distracting from actual competition. Bray's professionalism and consistency made him trusted presence whose judgment players accepted even in controversial situations, demonstrating importance of referee credibility to competitive integrity. His evolution from working referee to media personality in his own right demonstrated how supporting cast members can become recognizable figures contributing to championship appeal. The evolution of commentary styles reflects broader changes in sports broadcasting and audience expectations, as modern broadcasts incorporate more statistical analysis, technical breakdown, and interactive elements compared to traditional narrative-focused approaches. The integration of graphics, instant replay, and real-time data enables commentators to support observations with immediate visual evidence, transforming subjective impressions into verifiable facts. The increased emphasis on player background stories and human interest elements creates narrative depth that transforms athletes from anonymous competitors into characters that audiences can identify with and follow across championships. Yet the evolution must balance innovation against preservation of elements that made traditional commentary effective, ensuring that additional information enhances rather than overwhelms core function of helping audiences follow and understand competitive action. The international broadcasting challenges require adaptation of commentary approaches for diverse audiences with varying levels of darting knowledge and different cultural references. The controversies and memorable moments that have punctuated World Championship history represent defining episodes that shaped how audiences and participants understand the sport's evolution, character, and cultural significance. These incidents range from sporting dramas and disputed decisions to behavioral controversies and organizational conflicts that transcended immediate circumstances to influence professional dart's broader development. Understanding these watershed moments provides insight into how sporting culture evolves through contentious episodes, the role of controversy in generating attention and discussion, and how organizations respond to challenges affecting competitive integrity and public perception. The most significant controversies become reference points that permanently influence how subsequent situations are evaluated and addressed, creating precedents and institutional memory that shape ongoing decision-making. The BDO-PDC split represents the most consequential and long-lasting controversy in professional darts history. The organizational conflict fundamentally reshaping competitive structures and creating divisions that persisted for decades. The acrimonious breakup involved disputes about governance, commercial control, player rights, and conflicting visions for the sport's future development. The split created parallel world championships and competing claims to legitimacy that confused audiences and forced players to choose organizational allegiances. The subsequent decades witnessed the PDC gradually establishing dominance while the BDO declined into irrelevance and eventual collapse, vindicating those who argued that commercial innovation and professional management were necessary for sustainable growth. Yet the split also created lasting bitterness and destroyed relationships, demonstrating how organizational conflicts can damage sports even when ultimately producing positive outcomes. The legacy of the split continues influencing how professional darts operates and how participants understand the importance of organizational stability and sound governance. Phil Taylor's alleged tax issues and public controversies demonstrated that even dominant champions are not immune to scrutiny beyond sporting performance, creating discussions about athlete responsibilities and public image management. The incidents generated significant media attention and created challenges for Taylor sponsors and professional darts generally, as organizations worried about reputational damage affecting commercial relationships. Taylor's ability to maintain his competitive excellence despite off-field distractions demonstrated remarkable mental compartmentalization, though the controversies likely affected his public image and legacy considerations. The episodes highlighted the increasing expectations that professional athletes will serve as role models and the reality that personal conduct can significantly impact commercial value regardless of sporting achievements. The controversies ultimately did not prevent Taylor from being recognized as the sport's greatest champion, demonstrating that exceptional competitive achievement can survive personal controversies when athletes eventually address issues and maintain focus on their sporting excellence. The Gerwen-Wright behavioral controversies and crowd confrontations represented ongoing tension about appropriate competitive conduct and the line between passionate intensity and unsportsmanlike behavior. Price's aggressive celebrations and confrontational approach generated complaints from opponents and boos from crowds, creating hostile environments that seemed to fuel rather than inhibit his performances. The incidents raised questions about where competitive passion ends and poor sportsmanship begins, with different observers drawing that line in vastly different places. The PDC's inconsistent enforcement of conduct standards suggested organizational uncertainty about how strictly to regulate player behavior, creating perceptions of favoritism or selective enforcement. Price's eventual moderation of his approach demonstrated capacity for growth and adaptation, though the controversies permanently affected his public image and created legacy questions about whether his achievements will be remembered primarily for sporting excellence or behavioral controversies. The Fallon-Sherrock breakthrough and subsequent discussions about women's darts represented a watershed moment that generated significant controversy alongside celebration, as observers debated appropriate pathways for female player development and integration. The discussions about whether women should compete primarily in separate championships or pursue integration into mixed-gender competitions generated passionate arguments from multiple perspectives. Some argued that separate competitions provided crucial development opportunities and guaranteed recognition that full integration might compromise, while others contended that true equality required direct competition rather than segregation. Sherrock's success in mixed-gender PDC events demonstrated that top female players could compete successfully against male opponents, challenging assumptions about inherent gender limitations in darts. The ongoing debate continues shaping policy decisions about women's pathways and opportunities, with no clear consensus emerging about optimal approaches to developing and showcasing female talent. The BDO financial collapse and unpaid prize money represented catastrophic organizational failure that damaged hundreds of players and permanently stained the organization's legacy. The revelations about financial mismanagement, unpaid debts, and administrative chaos shocked the darting community and generated questions about regulatory oversight and organizational accountability. The players who discovered that their tournament winnings would never materialize suffered financial hardship through no fault of their own, creating bitter disappointment and anger toward BDO leadership. The collapse demonstrated how poor governance and financial mismanagement can destroy even historic sporting organizations, providing cautionary tale about the importance of sound business practices and transparent administration. The legacy of the collapse continues influencing how players evaluate organizational credibility and approach promises about opportunities with skepticism. The economic model and financial sustainability underlying World Championship darts represents crucial infrastructure determining whether the sport can maintain current success levels or whether commercial foundations remain vulnerable to disruption. The evolution from modest prize funds and limited sponsorship to multi-million-dollar championships attracting global commercial interest demonstrates remarkable commercial development, though questions remain about long-term sustainability and resilience against potential economic downturns or changing entertainment preferences. Understanding the financial ecosystem supporting professional darts provides insight into how sporting properties generate revenue, the relationship between commercial success and competitive integrity, and the challenges organizations face balancing short-term profit maximization against long-term sustainability. The most successful economic models create virtuous cycles where commercial success enables competitive investment that enhances quality, attracting larger audiences and generating additional revenue that funds further development. The prize money evolution from modest four-figure sums to multi-million-pound totals represents perhaps the most visible indicator of professional darts commercial growth and financial sustainability. The substantial prize funds now available at World Championships enable elite players to pursue darting as full-time profession, attracting talented athletes who might otherwise choose careers in other sports or conventional employment. The prize distribution structures reward both championship success and simply reaching later rounds, creating incentives for maximum effort throughout tournaments rather than focusing exclusively on winning titles. Yet the dramatic prize increases also create pressure on organizations to maintain commercial revenue streams supporting these payments, with any significant revenue decline potentially forcing prize reductions that could damage competitive appeal and player satisfaction. The sustainability of current prize levels depends on continued commercial growth and audience engagement that justifies substantial investment from sponsors and broadcasters. The sponsorship revenue represents a crucial component of championship financing, with title sponsors and various category sponsors providing substantial funds in exchange for brand association and marketing opportunities. The long-term partnerships between professional darts and major sponsors demonstrate mutual benefit and commercial credibility, as serious corporations invest substantially in properties they perceive as offering genuine value. The sponsor activation opportunities at championships, including signage, hospitality, and digital integration, enable companies to reach target audiences and achieve marketing objectives justifying their investments. Yet sponsorship dependence also creates vulnerability to economic conditions and corporate priority shifting, with any major sponsor withdrawal potentially creating financial challenges requiring rapid replacement or organizational adjustment. The diversification of sponsorship portfolio across multiple partners reduces risk compared to excessive dependence on single major sponsor whose departure could create existential crisis. The broadcasting rights and media revenue represent increasingly important income streams as traditional and digital platforms compete for content attracting engaged audiences. The substantial fees that broadcasters pay for exclusive championship rights reflect recognition that professional darts delivers consistent viewership and demographic profiles that advertisers value. The long-term broadcast partnerships provide financial stability and guaranteed revenue that enables organizations to make long-range plans and commitments to players and venues. Yet broadcast dependence also creates vulnerability to changing media consumption patterns and technological disruption, potentially reducing traditional television's commercial value. The need to balance maximizing broadcast revenue against maintaining some free-to-air accessibility, ensuring broad audience engagement, represents ongoing tension between commercial optimization and long-term growth that requires wider accessibility. The ticket sales and live attendance revenue remain important despite broadcasting being primary revenue source, as packed venues create atmosphere that enhances television appeal while providing direct income and merchandise opportunities. The premium hospitality and VIP experiences generate disproportionate revenue relative to standard tickets, creating tiered access systems that maximize income from corporate clients and affluent fans willing to pay substantially for enhanced experiences. The ticket pricing strategies must balance revenue maximization against maintaining accessibility for traditional working-class fans whose attendance and passion create authentic atmosphere that wealthier corporate guests alone could not replicate. The venue capacity and location decisions significantly affect potential ticket revenue, with larger venues generating more income but potentially compromising intimate atmosphere that distinguish traditional darting events from more corporate sporting properties. The merchandise and licensing revenue creates supplementary income streams while also serving marketing functions as fans wearing darting apparel become walking advertisements. The evolution from basic t-shirts to sophisticated product ranges including replica shirts, collectibles, and premium merchandise demonstrates commercial maturation and recognition of revenue opportunities beyond core competition. The digital commerce and global shipping capabilities enable international fans to access merchandise previously available only to those attending events, expanding commercial reach and creating new revenue streams. Yet merchandise revenue remains relatively modest compared to broadcasting and sponsorship, suggesting that while valuable as supplementary income and marketing tool, it cannot replace core revenue streams if those decline significantly. The cost structure and operational expenses associated with World Championships create substantial financial obligations that revenue must cover for the enterprise to remain sustainable. The alternative dart formats and exhibition events that exist alongside traditional World Championships represent important ecosystem components providing entertainment variety, player income opportunities, and experimental formats that might influence future championship evolution. These supplementary competitions range from team events and alternative scoring systems to celebrity exhibitions and novelty formats designed purely for entertainment rather than serious competition. Understanding the broader darting ecosystem beyond World Championships provides insight into how professional sports maintain year-round engagement, the relationship between serious competition and entertainment spectacle, and how alternative formats can serve developmental, commercial, and experimental functions complementing rather than competing with flagship championships. The best alternative formats create genuine entertainment value while respecting competitive integrity and avoiding damage to the sport's credibility through excessive gimmickry or trivialization. The World Cup of Darts represents the most prominent team competition in professional darts, featuring national pairs competing for their countries in format emphasizing teamwork and national pride alongside individual excellence. The team dynamic creates tactical considerations absent from individual competitions, as partners must manage pressure of representing compatriots and coordinate strategic approaches maximizing collective strengths. The national representation aspect generates passionate support and creates rivalries extending beyond individual player relationships, adding emotional dimensions that pure individual competition might not provide. The World Cup success demonstrates that alternative formats can generate genuine excitement and commercial interest without replacing the individual championship's primacy as the sport's ultimate achievement. Yet the team format also creates potential concerns about whether pair competitions truly test complete player abilities or whether strategic advantages and disadvantages based on partner quality distort meritocratic outcomes. The Premier League format, featuring invited elite players competing in league structure across multiple venues, represents significant commercial success while generating debates about fairness and access. The invitation-only structure ensures star quality and competitive intensity while excluding talented players who might deserve opportunities based purely on merit but lack the name recognition or entertainment value that commercial considerations prioritize. The regular season structure creates sustained narrative and opportunities for fans across multiple cities to attend events, distributing access more broadly than single championship venues can provide. Yet the format's commercial orientation and invitation system demonstrate tension between pure meritocracy and entertainment considerations, raising questions about appropriate balance between sporting fairness and commercial optimization. The Premier League success suggests that audiences accept some deviation from pure merit-based selection when formats deliver consistent entertainment and star power, justifying the compromises. The exhibition matches and charity events provide opportunities for player engagement with fans and communities while generating income and goodwill that benefit both players and the sport generally. The relaxed atmosphere and novelty formats used in exhibitions enable players to demonstrate skills and entertain audiences without the intense pressure characterizing championship competitions. The charity fundraising dimension creates positive public relations and demonstrates that professional darters contribute to communities beyond simply entertaining through their sporting excellence. Yet exhibitions must be managed carefully to avoid diminishing championship prestige through overexposure or creating perceptions that players prioritize lucrative exhibitions over serious competitive preparation. The optimal approach involves maintaining clear distinctions between serious competitions and entertainment exhibitions, ensuring that commercial opportunities enhance rather than compromise competitive credibility. The celebrity and amateur involvement formats, including pro-am tournaments and celebrity charity matches, create crossover appeal, attracting audiences who might not follow professional darts regularly. The accessible nature of basic dart throwing enables celebrities and amateurs to participate credibly without embarrassing themselves, creating entertainment through combination of professional excellence and good-natured amateur efforts. The formats demonstrate dart's democratic accessibility compared to sports requiring extensive training or elite physical attributes simply to participate at basic level. Yet celebrity involvement must be managed to avoid trivializing the sport or creating perceptions that professional darts is primarily entertainment rather than serious athletic competition requiring years of dedicated development to master. The alternative scoring formats, including Shanghai, cricket, and various novelty games, provide variety and test different skills beyond standard 501 racing. The alternative formats create tactical complexity and strategic decisions that differ from traditional games, potentially revealing different aspects of player abilities and creating fresh entertainment even for audiences familiar with standard competitions. The experimental formats might identify innovations that could eventually influence championship competitions if they prove popular and enhance rather than compromise competitive integrity. Yet alternative formats risk confusing casual audiences or diluting the sport's identity if promoted too aggressively, creating perceptions that even professional darts remains unsure about its optimal competitive structure. The youth and development competitions provide crucial pathways for emerging talent while generating feel-good stories about young prodigies capturing public imagination. The Junior World Championships and Youth Series create age-appropriate competitive environments where developing players can test themselves against peers without facing overwhelming challenges of competing directly against seasoned professionals. Alternative formats should enhance rather than compete with flagship championships. The future of World Championship darts involves navigating complex challenges and capitalizing on emerging opportunities as the sport continues evolving within rapidly changing technological, cultural, and economic environments. The remarkable success professional darts has achieved over recent decades creates both momentum for continued growth and expectations that might prove difficult to sustain if underlying conditions shift unfavorably. Understanding the forces that will shape championship darts' future trajectory provides insight into what factors determine sporting success in modern entertainment marketplace, how organizations can build resilience against potential disruptions, and what strategic decisions today might enable or constrain tomorrow's possibilities. The most successful approach involves building on current strengths while maintaining flexibility to adapt to changing circumstances, ensuring that the sport can weather inevitable challenges while capitalizing on opportunities that technological and cultural evolution creates. The technological evolution promises to fundamentally transform how audiences consume championship darts, with streaming platforms, mobile viewing, and interactive features creating alternatives to traditional linear television that shaped the sport's modern development. The shift toward on-demand and personalized content consumption requires adapting presentation formats and distribution strategies to serve audiences who increasingly control when, where, and how they engage with entertainment. The potential for enhanced interactivity, including real-time statistics, multiple camera angles, and augmented reality overlays could create viewing experiences that traditional broadcasts cannot match. Yet the technological transition also creates revenue challenges, as streaming economics and fragmented audiences might not generate comparable income to concentrated traditional television viewership. The balance between embracing technological innovation and maintaining commercial viability represents a crucial strategic challenge that will significantly affect championship sustainability. The generational challenges involve attracting younger audiences whose entertainment preferences and consumption patterns differ dramatically from the traditional darting demographic. The competition for attention from gaming, social media, and diverse entertainment options means that professional darts cannot assume that simply staging excellent competitions will automatically attract younger viewers. The integration of digital engagement, social media presence, and interactive elements might help connect with younger audiences, though excessive pandering risks alienating traditional fans who value authentic sporting competition over manufactured digital experiences. The development of young star players like Luke Littler provides natural connection points for younger audiences, though sustained engagement requires more than isolated breakthrough performances from teenage sensations. The generational transition represents existential challenge, as sports that fail to attract successive generations eventually decline regardless of current success. The international expansion opportunities promise to unlock new markets and revenue sources as professional darts extends beyond traditional British and European strongholds. The enormous populations and growing middle classes in Asia, the untapped potential of North American markets, and the passionate darting communities in Oceania represent significant growth opportunities if cultural barriers can be overcome and local infrastructure developed. Yet international expansion requires substantial investment with uncertain returns. as establishing the sport in new markets involves overcoming cultural resistance, developing local talent, and convincing audiences and sponsors that darts merits attention in crowded entertainment marketplaces. The balance between pursuing international growth and maximizing returns from established markets requires sophisticated strategic planning and patience for long-term development rather than demanding immediate profitability from expansion initiatives. The competitive depth and talent development challenges involve ensuring sufficient elite players to maintain championship quality as the sport expands and expectations rise. The current generation of exceptional young players suggests that talent pipelines remain healthy, though maintaining this success requires continued investment in development systems and pathways enabling promising players to reach their potential. The financial sustainability concerns for players outside absolute elite create challenges for competitive depth, as talented individuals might abandon darting careers if earning viable livings proves impossible despite considerable skill. The development of regional tours and supplementary competitions providing income opportunities for talented players who never quite reach championship winning levels will prove crucial for maintaining the competitive ecosystem supporting elite excellence. The women's darts integration and development represents both opportunity and challenge, as increasing female participation and visibility could expand audiences while requiring careful navigation of debates about optimal competitive structures. The success of players like Fallon Sherrock and Beau Greaves demonstrates that women can compete successfully in mixed-gender competitions, potentially making separate women's championships obsolete or transforming them into developmental pathways rather than ultimate competitive destinations. Yet the transition toward full integration requires ensuring that talented female players receive appropriate opportunities and support enabling them to compete effectively rather than simply opening doors and assuming equality will naturally follow. The resolution of women's darts' optimal structure will significantly affect the sport's appeal to diverse audiences and its credibility as genuinely inclusive rather than perpetuating gender divisions that other sports are working to overcome. The regulatory and governance challenges involve maintaining competitive integrity while adapting to changing legal, social, and commercial environments.